Hello everybody, welcome to our second day here in Montreal for group stages, and well, yesterday was just as exciting as I think we'd hoped. It had taken us a year to get to this point. There were a lot of very competitive matches, and now we have a day where half of our teams hang in the balance. Will 4 teams go home? Which 4 teams won't go home? Which 4 teams will advance? And which 4 teams will play tomorrow to see which of them go home, which of them advance? It's a very pivotal day.
Yeah, it's the last chance for many, and that's really scary stuff. When you could be pushed out of the biggest event in Siege history, as the Invitational often is, well, every time is at the beginning of each of these years, with one match, it's scary stuff. You really don't want to be losing here today, but we also have some matches for winners who will have, obviously, also still a second chance if they lose theirs.
So we should have the brackets for you to go through exactly what happened yesterday. So, Group A. We don't start with Group A. The schedule is not necessarily set this way. However, today's winners match will be Team Empire versus Dark Zero. Empire made quick work of Fnatic after a close first map, and then it was a hard-fought victory for DZ over FaZe Clan. One of Fnatic versus FaZe Clan will go home. That's one of the pitfalls of Group A, which I consider to be the group of death. Team Empire versus Dark Zero will be on this stream later today. For Group B, you can see it was the second group that many people consider to be the group of death. We're going to be starting with that Space Station versus TSM match. Space Station versus Na'Vi was a barn burner. TSM, same scoreline, very different story.
TSM getting that 2-1 over their opponents. Group C, however, have Giants Gaming getting pushed down into the elimination match by MIBR in what was actually fairly close. As much as it was a 2-0 for MIBR, Giants fought tooth and nail to try and take a map away from the Brazilians. Speaking of, this is the Latin American group. You see Group D, the last one. You can see G2 2-1 over Reciprocity, pushing themselves into the winner's match. BDS 2-0 over Wildcard and doing the same. That BDS Wildcard match was one of the most dominant matches we saw yesterday, and that's why we saw them push their way into the winner's match. Now, Reciprocity and Wildcard, one of them could be eliminated here today.
Yeah, one of them will be.
One of them will be. Somebody's going to get eliminated.
There is a chance that we lose all 3 APAC teams today, and there is a chance that we lose 2 Latin America teams today as well, or at least only 1, because in order for, Fnatic to go home, then we don't lose FaZe, and in order for Wildcard to go home, then we don't lose Reciprocity. So, but here's the schedule for you, just in case you're wondering. On the left-hand side, this is the schedule for this current stream. In case you were curious, it's going to be Space Station versus TSM starting us off, with G2 versus BDS up next. Team Empire versus Dark Zero, they've never played each other. And then MIBR versus Ninjas in Pajamas. They played each other quite a fair bit. On the right-hand side of the screen, that's what you're looking at on Rainbow Six Bravo.
It's just the other stream that you could go ahead and check out. We'll have Na'Vi versus Rogue, Team Reciprocity going up against Wildcard, Fnatic versus FaZe Clan, and then finally Giants Gaming versus Team Liquid. So some pretty exciting matches for both of these streams.
I don't know what the best match of the day is going to be. I mean, that Na'Vi versus Rogue matchup is going to be very, very good. I suspect that we're going to see the same thing from TSM versus Space Station. That's going to be a really exciting matchup, especially depending on what maps we end up playing on, because there's a lot of variety between those 2 teams. But let's start with TSM's roster. They had a bit of an easier day yesterday than you'd imagine from a 2-1, especially over the best team in Europe. Bolo having the best day of everybody, but Geo, Pojo, Merc, and Achieved also showed up.
I want to highlight Geo in particular. I feel like his contributions are really important because he not only had the second best stats in the team overall yesterday, but I think he showed the most consistent performance. Geo, when the rest of TSM was struggling in that first map, seemed to be in a pretty happy and content place. So it's a good performance from Geo in particular. Also, of course, as you stated, Bolo. Wow, just look at the stats. They speak for themselves, as does his face right now. I wonder what he's listening to. What is Achieved saying? Oh, man. So TSM, they looked really strong in those 2 maps, but we've got Space Station Gaming, their opponents, who also looked really strong. But in particular, Rampy.
The man on the left, I actually did not believe that those were the stats from today. When we were going through rehearsals, they brought up these images and we were looking through the slides and I said, yeah, I saw Rampy's 45 and 19 and I said, hey, could we maybe get the stats from yesterday instead of the season stats? And they go, those are the stats from yesterday. To which I said, oh my God.
Yeah, because it looks like, 45 and 19, you look at that and there's like several maps, it could be a good, maybe a quarter of a Pro League season, something along those lines. That's a lot of kills.
I mean, right now there have been 7 maps that have been played in the first split of Pro League, and I believe Merc has the most with 88 kills. Rampy is halfway there through 3 maps. So that's
so it's a good quarter of a Pro League season.
It's really impressive stuff. However, both of these teams won yesterday, so let's hear what they had to say after their matches.
My name's Matthew Solomon. I go by Achieves, and I play for TSM.
I'm Bosco from Space Station.
The first map was rough. We played Kafe. We got 7-2'd. We weren't able really to wake up on that map, but the next 2 maps we played Cons, and then we played Clubhouse, and we 7-1, 7-2. Those maps are a lot better for us. I think we woke up, and we played our game.
I mean, it was a great series against Navi. Those guys are really, really good. We fully expected to go 3 maps with them. They're a solid team. We win our map, they win their map, and we have to fight it out in the third, and that's just what happened. It was a really good series, but we came out on top. We had some really good adaptations that last map. Canadian made some really good calls for us, and it ended up bringing us home.
Next game we play SSG. SSG is a very structured team, but we also know how they play. We've played them a lot. We scrimmed them a lot. We play them in an A. We know their game. We know how to play against it, and we're going to do our best.
So our next opponent tomorrow is TSM, another North American team, and we'll be ready for them.
So for us to improve, we really need to work on our early game, I think. We really need, when we load up into the first match, we got to be ready. Got to be ready for peaks, got to be ready for structures, got to be ready for everything. I think we need to mentally prepare ourselves a little more and work on our teamwork and communication.
I'd have to say the strength for TSM would be just their individual skill, and they play well as a team, but they have players on that team that are just very, very talented mechanically, yeah, I mean, they have 5 gunners and they work really well together, so it'll be a tough battle.
Just want to let our opponents know that we're going to come out of the gate swinging, we're going to play our game, and best of luck to them.
Yeah, we're ready for our revenge, that's for sure.
And revenge, of course, being on the mind for Bosco and the rest of Space Station. These 2 teams, when they met in Pro League earlier, well, like every other team in North America that ended up going up against them, SSG didn't fare so well, and it was TSM coming out ahead with a 7-4 victory in that best of 1. We've got the map veto up on your screen, so we will walk through the maps that these teams decide to play on. TSM banning Border, all right, that's interesting. Clubhouse, one of the strongest maps for all of North America. You would suspect that it might end up being picked, and it's still on the table now with a Villa ban, one of TSM's better maps, if not TSM's best map statistically. TSM's first pick will be Consulate, and we'll await what we see from Space Station.
There it is. It's going to be a bank pick for SSG, so they're locking that in, feeling confident on that map. So the almost done here. We've got one last map to decide. It's going to be Kafe, as Coastline is the final ban from SSG. They decide to bring us to Kafe. So that's going to be an interesting lineup. We've got Consulate, Bank, then Kafe.
Frankly, I'm a little surprised to see Clubhouse that far down. I mean, obviously, it's not a bad map for TSM, so we could have seen that. And I know a lot of people really wanted to watch these 2 teams smash their heads against each other on Clubhouse. Not to be today, unfortunately. The tale of the tapes from yesterday, the 2 standout performers you'll see in front of you. And, well, no surprise, it's Rampy versus Bolo, and that's going to be our statistical matchup to watch today. Both of them showing up huge. But I mean, I think those stats really speak for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to put someone up against Rampy right now because of his 45 and 19 plus 26. That's absolutely bonkers. Rampy had just one of those performances that you just don't see very often.
Yeah.
And when we say that in one best of 3, he put up a pretty average stats for about a quarter of a Pro League season. That's a 6-month-long season in one day. Well, not a whole 6-month season, but it's a lot of performance for one matchup. And yeah, Rampy's the one to keep an eye on here today. So is Bolo, though. He did, I think, surprise a lot of people. I don't know. it's hard to compare direct players and when you have two squads with such proficient overall teams.
Well, theorizing is always great, and I know we love to do it, but we're going to get underway with our first match here, and our first map as well. It's going to be on Consulate, with Space Station starting on defense, TSM on attack. Bans will come out, and then we'll get into the action. When you look at the tail of those tapes, though, I think the most interesting thing is that it was Bolo that was highlighted. It wasn't Geo, it wasn't Achieved, and it wasn't Merc. It was somebody who's actually taken a bit of a step back in terms of how aggressive they've been and the role that they find themselves playing on, which is Bolo's case. You would think that it would be Merc versus Rampy, but yesterday, Merc had a bad day, whether it was him being shut down by Rogue, or whether you want to argue that it was just him, well, sleeping in. Who knows? TSM yesterday said in their post-game interview that they didn't get a warm-up scrim, which is exactly why they came in cold and fell behind to Rogue in that very first map. Is that going to be the case this time? Well, Kafe is going to be our third map, and that was the one that Rogue showed that there is a bit of a weakness for TSM. Your operator bans will be Nomad and Capitao on attack, and then a Mira and a Valkyrie on defense.
So Consulate is a good map for both teams, but it is one of TSM's best maps recently. They've actually been undefeated in it, and it is often banned by opponents who are going up against TSM. Not many squads want to play TSM on this map, and that's why, of course, it is TSM's map pick. It's why they're bringing us here. Now, it is not a slouch map for SSG either. They just don't have as flawless of a record on Consulate, at least not in recent history. So TSM, a little bit of a leg up in terms of they got their map, they're happy where they are. And we'll see how that plays out since SSG are starting on defense. Since TSM picked the map, SSG get to pick the side, and SSG have decided they wanted to start on the defense. Which makes sense. We've seen, especially yesterday, with TSM in particular, actually, if I could bring up those stats, there were very few attacking wins in TSM's last matchup. It was against Rogue yesterday. Let me just really quickly sift through, because it looks like about 6 attacking wins. Just about. Oh no, 7. Small correction. So when you have an enemy team in TSM that has gone up against a Titan like Rogue, and then out of that match you get 7 total attacking wins in a best of 3 where you see all maps played, yeah, you start defense. Start defense if you're SSG. Yeah. It's smart.
I am actually a little surprised with the way that these map bans worked out. Clubhouse was still on the table, not that TSM is a bad map. Oh, that's a good start as Canadian bursts forward and Achieved is greeted inside of admin by a hail of bullets and a quick death. Oh. There goes a Nitro cell, but it sails over the top of Bolo. An electric start from SSG now as they have this full court press upstairs. From down below, you're going to see some damage be done. That's fortunate for Canadian as he takes 25% of his HP and he throws it away.
It happens, but he did get away with his roam upstairs and he's now fallen back to the middle floor. TSM have established top floor control, whether they know it or not. You can see the drone coming in here from Merc, and what he's basically going to be doing is relaying that information to the rest of his team. Hey guys, they left. So TSM will know that in short order, and they will push in to establish control on the rotations that are those staircases. You can see Geo doing that right now with this Claymore. You also see that happening around yellow stairs as well. But there's still some roamers in the middle floor to deal with if you're TSM, and they also need to be vigilant when it comes to that hold, because SSG could wreak havoc if they're allowed to persist in this bathroom. It's Thinking Nate actually now alone with Canadian at the top of Spiral, so he can at any moment spring into action and do some more damage.
Obviously, as we can see how close the Thermite is, as Pojo Man is within striking distance of that Vector from Goyo, but was not in the building, now is, and we'll head towards the top of Spiral Stairs where Canadian was located. Since that drop has already been opened inside a bathroom, well, they're going to try to get an exothermic charge off on it, but it gets impact tricked. So say goodbye to the exothermic charge, as you can see Thinking Nate playing up there. And while he was prepared for it inside of the bathroom, not ideal. And right now, oh no, not this.
Oh, it's the new jammer.
Anyway.
It's not for the players, luckily, it's just for us.
So with that said, there's 45 seconds left and you will hear the buzzing over and over again as he falls off of the drone. So there you go. Bolo will go back on it, and then...
You just fixed it for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Bolo. Hey! Thanks,
Bolo!
Yeah.
Coming in clutch.
30 seconds left in the first round, though, and Bolo manages to salvage the round for us. We salvage the round for his team. Slow. Bosco springs out of the doorway. Geo gets leveled. A trade-off from Merc with Bolo getting in on the action. Won't be able to find a second kill as Canadian finds his. Surveying the drop as there's a push from the back, and...
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Well, it's a 2v2, so that's the biggest takeaway from this situation. At least either team could have won it, and so both will be equally disappointed.
Just a look of wonderment.
On everyone's face. Look at Rampy.
It's like Rampy's never seen this before.
So what is this?
What happened?
Look at his face.
Wait, what?
I'm supposed to be dropping 45 kills again. What is this?
What?
What
What is?
boy.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Unfortunate circumstances find us here.
Yeah, but at least it was a 2v2 and it wasn't like a done deal or anything like that. So both squads are going to be thinking to themselves, oh, we could have won that. Oh. Yeah.
Slowly zoom in on Merc's face.
Hi, Merc.
Slowly.
Merc was actually still alive in that. It was Merc, Pojo Man, Fultz, and Canadian. Those were the 4 players left alive, and I'm sure they are the most disappointed.
Canadian was actually prone by the front of Black Car.
Oh, yeah?
Pojo Man is within a step or two of him.
Yeah, we could still kind of see it, actually. We're looking at... the other defender was inside a kitchen. One defender inside a kitchen behind the bomb. The other defender by the actual B bomb, which is the one in garage. So they were both by the bomb chassis. Pojo Man was pushing in through the garage panel, and then we had one guy coming down yellow stairs. It was definitely very winnable for both teams, to be honest. The biggest thing is that both the defenders were playing for time. You could tell by their positioning and the way that they are prone next to their bombs. They're just waiting for that round to end. And that's fair. There was about, 10 seconds left. And the last 2 attackers were at that point trying to rush their way in and take the fights. No plant was going to happen. So it would have been a slugfest to the very end. And it could have easily gone either way.
That was really unfortunate. I would say out of both of these teams, the team that really loses out the most is SSG. That early pick onto Achieved as he swings into admin fundamentally changed the entire round.
By Canadian?
By Canadian.
Yeah.
That was absolutely extraordinary. And then the impact trick that also happened onto the exothermic charge to pop it into the bathroom wall. Those were 2 things that now TSM are going to be well aware of, and the pendulum will likely swing in their favor heading back into that round. As I would suspect, and we'll await the admin's call on this, I would suspect that we're not going to award that round to anybody. It was a 2v2 with 4 seconds left. Anything can possibly happen, so you got to start from scratch. That's my guess. I mean,
that's my guess too.
I don't work here.
Well,
I just cast.
Sure, yeah. It's not work.
That's not what I meant.
We just talk.
I just talk.
So I think that, that's probably going to be a 0-0 restart from scratch, like you said. That is the most likely situation. But, of course, all the players on these teams are going to be able to have time to contemplate what they saw in that first round.
A couple things now while we are in between rounds or ready to start this round over again that I think can be mentioned. First and foremost, there is a second stream that is going on right now on twitch.tv/Rainbow6. That's the number, not SIX. Rainbow 6 Bravo. So just type Bravo, I guess, at the end of this URL if you're watching it on Twitch. Rogue versus Na'Vi, the best team in Europe, versus the former Pro League champions. One of those teams, their journey ends here today. Who's it going to be? You can go over there and watch it on multi-Twitch if you'd like, or open a second tab on your browser or second monitor, depending on how you want to watch it. Additionally, we are pushing to have the biggest prize pool that we have ever had. And right now, we have been quite successful. 2.5 million. That eclipses the 2 million total from the Six Invitational last year. However, the community can band together to grow that prize pool to a maximum of $3 million. There are a number of ways you can do this. The primary way, of course, the Premium Battle Pass, which is on right now, celebrating the road to Six Invitational with, 35 tiers, a variety of cosmetics, boosters, Rainbow Six currency in-game. 30% of all proceeds of that Premium Battle Pack go back into the esports program and into the Six Invitational prize pool. And then additionally, you've got the pilot program skins and as well the Pro League skins. These are all ways that you can help crowdfund the prize pool of the Six Invitational to reach that $3 million limit.
So the most likely thing that's happening here right now, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm guessing the admins are deliberating as to what's going to happen moving forward in this match, because it's a very complicated situation. You take a snapshot of that, 2v2, it's really hard to say where it could have gone, and you're going to need time for those admins to really figure out how things should pan out in the future. Who should get around, or maybe nobody. What are we going to do? Are we going to restart from scratch? Are we going to make these teams play with the same operators, the same bomb sites? What's the dealio? So give the admins some time. Let them contemplate what's going to happen in the future of this match, because it is definitely very important for both of these teams that the right decision is come to. Now, from that first round, there's not a whole lot to talk about. There's maybe one or two things. What we saw from SSG was a lot more daring than I'm used to seeing from SSG. I really want to highlight that Canadian play upstairs, where he was going for not a roam necessarily an admin. He was roaming, yes, but it seemed like he just kind of strafed by admin. He waited for admin to be droned out, then after it had already been droned out, he re-entered admin, and then got a pick on one of the players who was on rappel, and left. And started going on more of a marathon. He went over to a meeting and challenged a player on the balcony.
Nearly caught Bolo with that nitro cell.
Yeah, he was looking for kills. It wasn't oh, I'm going to roam. It was, I'm going to hunt people. And Canadian almost got 2. He got 1. He did a pretty good job scaring Bolo as well. He wasted a decent chunk of time upstairs before falling back and getting away scot-free.
I mean, the thing to note on a garage defense is how many teams genuinely defend admin on almost any site other than Teller's Archives? So if you're not expecting them to be there, you throw a quick drone in, you drone very briefly, you see, okay, admin's clear, I'm going in, nobody's going to be nearby, and then Canadian is playing inside of that smaller little connector area, and he manages to get achieved right as he's rappelling on in. Additionally, it's also going to mean that from now on, if you're TSM, you're going to have to drone a little bit better, because you got caught off guard. This is something that we've seen a number of teams do on old Clubhouse. Before it got changed, you'd have somebody roaming weirdly upstairs or off-site, and then next thing you know, you don't drone it because you think it's a Clubhouse defense downstairs. Nobody roams. Well, I mean, now they do, but at the time they didn't. So when you push on in, you get caught off guard by it. I cannot stress how big that server reset is going to be for TSM should it end up happening, and should that be the call that we get from the admins. We are still awaiting that, so we have no update for you. However, if it does end up being just a flat-out reset, massive, massive advantage to TSM, who now understand how that impact trick was going to happen onto the exothermic charge on the bathroom wall. There's likely going to be less of a roam, at least in that sense, from Canadian. So, boy, oh boy, that's, if I'm TSM, I mean, nobody's happy about this. But if there's a clear winner that emerges, it's likely TSM.
Oh, we're just waiting to see what's going to come, what the future holds here for these teams. Once we have more information, we will relay it to you. Currently, we don't have much. We do know is that these teams have had plenty of time to talk it out, to wait to see what's going to happen, and so think about what they're going to do in future rounds, whether it be attacking or defending on the basement or on the other bomb sites. Of course, the coaches aren't able to talk right now since it's technical, not tactical, but the players are plenty capable of hashing it out, thinking about what they should and should not do, and processing stuff. That's Lycan there, the coach of SSG. Smart fellow, great guy, big figure in the North American community. Now, we're just, like I said, waiting to see what future holds.
We still don't have any decision. All we know is that the server is being set back up. We don't know if it was a full server crash. There have been a number of instances where Maestro appears to be the culprit. So
that would be like when they're spectating Maestro, right? And then
well, I mean, there was a Maestro still left. That was the thing.
But he didn't jump onto...
He was on his cam inside of the break room, staff area.
I was told that that had something to do with like when you're spectating the Maestro when he's on camera. We didn't ever spectate the Maestro. We were watching, what was it, Sophia, I think?
Well, I mean, to keep in mind, there are 2 observers in the game.
Oh,
You
yeah?
don't know what the second one could have been doing.
That's true. That's true.
If it was doing anything at all and wasn't just an overhead view. We're not entirely sure. So speculation is really all we can do. Just as you can do at home. That's all really we can do.
So we've got everyone in the lobby. We've got everything set up. As soon as everything is confirmed to be as it should be, we will be able to start this match. So the beginning of this match is imminent. Or the attempt number 2 beginning of this match is imminent. And so far from what I can see, it looks like the round has been reset. It also looks like we're getting the same, it's uniform lineups. It's repeat here, same Bob site, same operators, 0-0. And it looks like all the settings are correct, so we'll load into the match. So just a hard reset there on everything.
Pretty sensible, I think. As much as we can speculate, you know, if you're telling me from all the Rainbow Six that I've watched and all the Rainbow Six that you've watched, how does that round end?
Couldn't tell you.
I mean, couldn't tell you, but I would put my money on SSG.
I don't know.
Evil Eye is still up. You've got.
They're not going for the plant though.
There was 4 seconds left as Merc was starting.
15 seconds left. The timer kept going.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, it was about 10 to 15 seconds left. There was time.
I thought it was only 4 seconds.
No, the timer kept going after the server froze. It might have been 4 seconds.
I thought the timer stopped going right away. I could be wrong.
I saw the red light trigger right about when the server stopped, so that would be about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, anything can happen. I mean, if you put a gun in my head and say which team ends up walking away with this victory, probably SSG, just based on time. But that, I mean, you can't make that call, right? No admin can make that call. If I'm an admin, the safest way to do it is just let's replay it.
Yeah.
There's no way that you can. I think there's no way that you can say it with any certainty.
What? Where did it even hit?
It hit the.
I didn't even, it still seemed like it didn't hit anything. Oh, a run out from Canadian and he's gone. So this is a hard opposite of what we saw last round.
And I mean, this is. You got to expect this. You know, Canadian decides to. I'm assuming this is the mental gamesmanship that happens. Is they say to themselves, okay, well, there's no way, you know, Canadian's going to do this again. He got caught. He's not going to roam upstairs. He's not going to be as aggressive as he was. We have him watched. But then Canadian goes, they're not going to expect me to do this a second time. And then they're like, we're going to expect him to do it a second time. So opening pick, in this case, goes to TSM. That is a mirror of what happened and the opposite of what happened previously.
Yeah.
And for it, unfortunately, if you were a fan of SSG, things will now get worse, as Rampy, who was roaming upstairs, is also taken out this time by Bolo, the 2 opening picks for his team.
He's been having a good performance in this tournament thus far, and now in this map, he's doing well. That hole that's just been opened up there by the Buck of Achieved is going to be to you flank watch on the Visa staircase. You can just shoot someone as they try to ascend from the defense. That was a missed opportunity from Achieved, but he did, I think, a little bit of damage to Thinking Nade and scared him off, forced him back into the bathroom. This is a typical position for a roamer on the middle floor when a basement is being defended to hold. And the cool thing about it is that Thinking Nade, when he wants to, can fall back. Here's the exothermic charge, placed low to avoid impact tricking. The wall wasn't prepped and there was no one to impact this time. So the wall gets opened up. That's because Canadian died out earlier. Mute jammers are still there, so it's hard to drone out to determine if it's actually clear, but they've got the job done. Bathroom clear, top floor clear, 2-man advantage, TSM soundly in the driver's seat now that they know what to expect from SSG. I'll be honest, I really am surprised that SSG didn't try to change something about how they defended this based on the fact that it was given away in the first round and there was a solid 5 minutes for TSM to talk about it.
I mean, they did kind of change things though, right? Canadian taking aggressive inside of admin, instead just simply went for a jump out. I don't think they were expecting somebody to be watching from that angle, and then Rampy was also roaming very aggressively upstairs rather than playing closer to the site. There's another for TSM. It's Merc's kill this time. He's got some work to do, given his performance yesterday, and wasn't exactly shouldering the same amount of weight that you're expecting. His back turned to Merc, down goes Thinking Nade, and Bosco in a 1v5. From what could have been a certain defeat to a flawless round, impressive stuff by TSM to go up 1-0.
Yeah, that's a big one for TSM. Again, Yeah, TSM pretty soundly read SSG there. And yeah, SSG changed a few things, like the way that Canadian tried to roam on the top floor, for example. He was aggressive in different positions early on. He tried to mix it up. He tried to keep TSM on their toes. But the same basic principle applied to SSG's defensive philosophy then as it did in the first round, and it was predicted and countered by TSM there. So that's rough for SSG. Again, it's just surprising to me that they didn't try to do something entirely different. Of course, they were likely locked into their bomb site due to the, I would assume, the admin call. This is not something that I've been told, so it's hard for me to really say definitively, but I can't imagine SSG would want to defend the basement right after that first round debacle. So I'm assuming they were told they had to. What we do know is that TSM took that round. And you're right, it could have gone SSG's way, or it could have gone TSM's way in the whole crashing situation. We don't know. It's just, we have what we have in this result, and that's that. Top floor defense now for SSG. Get a nice view of their setup. You can tell they're going to be playing Pulse underneath admin office as a deterrent, if nothing else. Having a Pulse downstairs is also effective because Pulse can actually detect players on the third floor from the bottom floor on this map. So you just gotta be like basically directly underneath them. But it's possible. And if you can call out the amount of warm bodies coming from admin, as you're seeing Canadian do right now, you're gonna give your team a good amount of information as to how they should defend moving into the round. Canadian has just told the rest of his squad that it is clearly an admin take, and they should set up accordingly.
SSG is going to continuously invest in this deep roam where they are going to put somebody in the line of fire. Right now, it's Canadian down as Pulse on that main floor. Admin control for TSM, as that's their entry. They're still droning things out. And now realizing they've got admin Merc and Pojo Man will both head on in to do some work in tandem that we saw similar from Bolo, who was in there earlier on. It's going to be exclusively an east push as one exothermic charge goes off on that Visa panel, and an immediate drop from Merc, who will head on back in. Obviously, with a Jaeger on the board, you need to try and clear as best you can this utility. Down goes an Evil Eye and a Mute Jammer. Or not Evil Eye, yeah, that was an Evil Eye, that got taken out.
It may have been.
I believe it was. Yeah. On the corner. There you go. Thank you very much, medics.
Now, what we do know is Bosco's trying to hold the meeting corner. That's a difficult position to play, but if anyone's going to do it, it'll be Bosco, especially on Smoke. Smoke and Mute are your typical operators that will play in this spot because they got the shotgun and they've got the indirect utility, whether it be the C4 or the gas canisters. In this case, the gas canisters. Bosco's going to get achieved. That's a really good pick there from Bosco, and he persists inside of meeting. That's a second one, both of them on the balcony. Bosco is currently the MVP for his team as he has managed to hold on to meeting, which again, I really have to stress how hard it is to hold that position.
And especially from the balcony where both of those kills from Bosco came in. Now you've got Merc and Geo stacked up on the top of Visa stairs. Merc has been repositioned. Nobody is bothering to push on over to deal with Bosco, so they're just going to negate him for right now. A lot of North American teams refer to that as Bosco's spot, and well, he's showing exactly why. The final push now here in round number 2. As TSM starred for drones, not a ton of information as you can see. And they're just going to walk on in blind. Geo's back to the default cam. He'll hunt down below to see where Canadian is, who spots him, but he puts the cardiac sensor away. These were once teammates. But Geo realizes the jig is up. 2 kills for TSM as they burst into the site. Bosco flushed out. Rampy 2, Bolo with 3 kills. Oh my word! And it's Canadian down below, isolated. He'll walk right into Geo and he wins the fight, but he will have to find the diffuser. He doesn't have the nitro cell available. He will mistime it. They'll be able to get out of there very effectively. Bad timing for Canadian. He sees one on drone, softens up the floor, but this is an almost unwinnable task for him. I can't believe how TSM was just able to bulldoze their way into the site. This retake from Canadian will be tough. Bolo's on only a tiny bit of HP. Down goes Merc. Bolo's 1 shot away. Will Canadian clutch?
Oh my God!
No way he pulls that off! off and the diffuser is his. He knows he has plenty of time. And I'd imagine you gotta be pumped with that one. He'll start to defuse and SSG manages to save the round. Almost unwinnable, I say. Well, he proves me wrong. Second round goes to SSG.
I'm not kidding, I can hear him right now through the walls.
Look at the wall.
He couldn't, so I was going to say, oh, that's such a shame. Canadian could have clutched it. After he killed the Twitch downstairs, that was Geo, he could have C4'd underneath and killed the planter on the 000 and stopped the timer. Would have been a win for SSG. I was going to say, oh, it's too bad he didn't scan the whole thing. But Canadian wins it anyway. He just wins those. Big key thing here. He clearly had information on the player in bathroom. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what it was that was providing that information. I don't think he checked it with his heartbeat detector before he went up. It looked to me to be a reaction from a teammate's call. You could tell the way he was about to run out of yellow, then stopped himself, hard left looks, and bathroom, bathroom, bathroom. Somebody screaming in his ear. You can kind of tell. So I'm wondering what it is, what exact piece of utility was being utilized there to provide information to Canadian saying, oh, hey, there's one in bathroom. Maybe it was the default cam by the big desk. Maybe it was something else. Whatever it was, that piece of utility was key in the outcome of that round, because you could tell the way that that player in bathroom was positioned, he was trying to be sneaky. He was trying to catch Canadian off guard, and the info worked against whoever that was. I want to say that was Bolo, because he killed Merc on the balcony, right? So I'm pretty sure it was Bolo. Anyway, what we do know is back to the basement for SSG. Going to avoid the middle four for now.
I am astonished. No way is he going to get away with this. C4 goes, but Achieved will scamper off. And while you think about round number one, the one that happened prior to the crash, Canadian was able to capitalize off of that spawn peak, or at least not spawn peak, but a play that was basically Achieved swinging on in from the spawn. Canadian was able to get the better of Achieved. And that exchange upstairs in admin, and then he continues his hot play down below. It's been a bit of a renaissance for Canadian, as there were some very legitimate questions, I think, that were asked of Evil Geniuses and where he was. Rampy gets absolutely shut down by Merc on the opening pick. TSM find the first frag in a minute, and that looks to be second floor control as well with it.
Big pick there for TSM. They've established a solid amount of control, but oh, look at that. On the middle floor, there's still a player. Bolo eats a little bit of damage. Thinking nade, SMG 11 out, trying to challenge the drop down. And he's just gonna keep playing down there. Nobody from TSM in a position to really punish him, it seems. Achieve trying to open up more angles, give his team more information from the drop. And here come the drones, the army of drones in that main lobby. They're going to try and drone out Thinking nade. Now he is playing mute, which means he's gonna have a lot of jammers in this position. And he'll be able to give that, well, I guess deny the information gathering from the enemy. Is he trying to work his way next to the toilet? I wonder if he can get away. I wonder if he's going to get away with that. It seems like it's awfully hard to shimmy your way in there.
It's dirty.
It is dirty as well.
You don't know where that's from. Frag grenade gets dropped on down. Thinking nade is blind. Only a little bit of damage. There goes the Nitro Cell. Does it get the exothermic charge? Yes, it does. So the fadeaway throw from Thinking nade, as he uses that secondary ability of, which is just that Nitro Cell.
Let's control established, though, for TSM in the top two floors. And now they're going to be able to use their buck to great effect as they open up from above. Only 12 shots left on that shotgun. So Chief needs to be very sparing with the use of his skeleton key. Hopefully there are breaching charges for TSM.
Other than the pick on the Rampy, it's been a very slow pace. It's established from TSM here as they've taken their own lumps. They managed to open that garage with not much time to spare. Thinking nade on stairs takes out Merc as Achieved guns down Fultz. Both teams lose one. Advantage still in the favor of TSM. Waiting for somebody to walk on in. The SMG-11 is a little bit too much for Thinking nade. He'll get punished by Yellow Stairs as Geo finishes him off. Smoke will manage to take out Bolo. Bosco will need to do more work as the plant is going down. As he escapes, Canadian with one. Is he going to pull another rabbit out of his hat? It's a 1v2 with Pojo Man on a single point of HP. Coverage from above, but Canadian will get cut off by Pojo Man as he's blind, and TSM answer back on round number 3.
That was a beautiful round there from TSM. In particular, their control of the angles needs to be highlighted. They were able to isolate all of the problems from SSG, all of the players that were in positions to stop that attack. Most notably, of course, is going to be your mute over by the yellow staircase. And that was a really tough position to deal with, and often you can see that player isolate himself from all angles. However, TSM was challenging him from 3, maybe 4 angles, definitely 3. And that's really important because as soon as that player was dealt with, now TSM has an open field to work with. They can challenge from yellow stairs, cut off rotation on the entirety of garage, challenge from the breach, challenge from above, and they don't need to worry about that player by pipe/yellow stairs, stopping them from engaging the rest of the defenders in fights. Head-to-head fights, not crossfire fights. So big ups to TSM for their control of the angles there. And nice try there from SSG. Canadian again with a really strong performance. That round was by far from a one-sided affair. It was very close.
Closer than it would show.
A wood show?
Closer than it would show, I said.
Oh, okay.
10 seconds
Yeah.
Often that is the case when you have
5 seconds remaining.
these rounds. Sometimes they are a lot closer than you would anticipate. But that's how it is. All that really matters is the win. It's going to be a bottom floor roam here from Space Station in a middle floor defense. This is the first time they've gone to the middle floor, but after their performance on the bottom floor, I'm not surprised they're going to try this. SSG does not seem comfortable downstairs.
No.
So why not roam downstairs?
You stuck Canadian on that pulse, that's exactly what he's going to do, and Bolo will be the natural predator for him, as IQ is able to detect at a much greater range pulse and his cardiac sensor. Gadget that IQ has is a 20-meter range. Pulse's scanner is only 9 meters, so you obviously know that there's a significant advantage and double the distance for Bolo to be able to prey on Canadian.
Yeah, he'll have a little bit of heads-up information. The Canadian's got, just droned out, actually.
It's a lot of people who don't know there's a drone hole there.
Yeah, of course.
Not pros, I'm just talking general people that play this.
Yeah, so now you've learned something. Congratulations, everybody who's watching this. That's a really, actually, a useful drone hole. It's like that one on Bank. You can come at it from...
The one that's over top of the bottom of blue stairs?
Yeah, you can see a whole bunch of the actual bomb site when the defenders are on the basement. The way you get to that one is between the parking garage and the actual building. Near the ramp that goes into downstairs garage. Anyway, so TSM have top floor control, and they've well established this thanks to their drone game here. They are doing a really good job of gathering information before they push things. I like the way that SSG is using Kaid on a middle floor defense. You do not see this very often. Those electric claws, one of them being pre-placed, the other one being used to deny the possibility of the garage getting opened up. You can see that's why he's playing in the basement. So smart play, good coverage from SSG here. Canadians gathering information on the other side of the basement, so they know, and by they I mean SSG, will know if they're being pushed from a different location. So far, no actual contact happening between these squads, but lots of information gathering again on the side of TSM, and lots of setup as well. They're just getting ready to assault the site.
This vertical play is something that SSG has really enjoyed, and Canadian has the read on 2, but doesn't have the gun for it, as now in the middle of the site is Bolo, and the first casualty is Space Stations. TSM now will pause for just ever so slightly as SSG rotates to try and make up for the loss of the pulse down below. Plant going down? No, down. Say goodbye to Pojo Man. Diffuser will need to be picked up, but it might just be an all-out brawl as TSM will add to their numbers 2 more scalps for their collection.
What?
4v2, Diffuser planted. SMG 11 out, shotgun in hand. 1 miss, swings, hits, but it's a cleanup from TSM. Doesn't matter if SSG needs to get that Diffuser. It's a 3-1 score line for TSM.
This is interesting. He just ran past the Claymore. I'm guessing he walked out of the detonation radius of the Claymore. He took a hard left. The Claymore was placed on the staircase. So the lasers actually, you could have probably even just avoided detonating it in the first place, but I'm guessing he walked outside of the detonation radius. Anyway, happens. Interesting round there from TSM. The collapse onto the site and their ability to frag out were really what shows up most. You can see that represented in Bolo and Merc's contributions. Look at that score line. We still have players on SSG, on the other hand, who have yet to show up. Now, it's only 4 rounds in. We're going into our 5th. And that's, fair play. You don't have to have kills at this point. It's not how this game works. You can have contributions outside of those kills, but when you've got 7 kills to begin things, that is some really impressive stuff. On the other hand, Rampy still hasn't gotten one, who is the standout performer for SSG from yesterday, who managed to get 45 kills in one best of 3, and he still has, for this event, 45 kills.
Yeah.
One thing that is certain is that Bolo is proving himself to be a LAN player.
He's never been particularly bad on LAN.
No, I'm not saying he has. I'm saying he's locking in his name as a LAN player, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Merc having a deceptively better game. I would not have imagined him being up that high, and he's doing his job masterfully.
Attackers' objective is to locate a bomb and
It's an upstairs defense now. It was the only one that we've seen a victory from Space Station, and even that was a 1v3 clutch from Canadian. This very easily could be a 4-0 for TSM. So, SSG had reason to be motivated after that second round, but it's somewhat slipped away as an unsuccessful defense on Garage, and then on the lobby proved to be, well, a demotivator.
Yeah, I can understand the demotivation here. One thing that I want to highlight is that most of the wins, if not all of the wins that TSM have gotten, have come at the hands of team fights. Yes, it's the end of a team fight. TSM 90% of the time are on top. They're just winning when it comes to the collapse, when it comes to the frag fests. And Bolo, the fragger, is going to get Canadian in bathroom hallway. So that's a really big kill to start off things for TSM. Canadian caught off guard, it seemed, maybe in the middle of a sprint because he didn't have his gun up and wasn't ready to take that fight.
Almost every operator, with the exception of the Goyo that we saw from Canadian, Bolo has been doing his job to hunt down the Pulse and the Vigil all the time. So if you are Canadian, maybe see a bit of a change. That Evil Eye is gone. Gio doing his utility work. There's no real hole in the strategy from TSM here. Obviously, this is their map. Diffuser gets planted. All beknownst to SSG. 9 people still alive.
There's nobody playing around CEO. No information gathering tools, it seems. Just so much dealt with there from TSM, and they took the opportunity. Merc gets Thinking Nade, who is trying to retake the site above. Bosco on low HP, he has to do the same. A run out from Fultz will net 1 kill into Merc, but that just opens up Connector, nothing else. Bolo gets Fultz, so there's a response there. And Rampy goes down, leaving just Bosco on about 20 HP to get 4 kills and disable rather, in 11 seconds. He gets 1, and TSM locks out that round. So there's nobody watching CEO now? I want to see what SSG's faces look like because, I mean, that's
There they are.
Yeah, there they are. They feel right about how I'm imagining they would feel based on their faces.
I was a glaring hole in Space Station's defense, and they said, okay, well, we lost Console last time because we cleared from admin. We got bogged down in clearing the basement floor as well, which is where, the Pulse was playing, and then he was playing on the main floor too. So let's just see if there's anybody inside of that Console office. Oh, hey, there's not. Pojo, swing on in. We'll cover you from above, and you can get away scot-free.
Attackers need to locate
It really is that simple sometimes. It really is as simple as, hey, nobody from SSG is watching Console office. Let's go for it. Now, Teller's Archives, which will mean that on the very final defense for Space Station, Michael, they have played every single site. Only one has been successful for them. 3 diffusers planted from TSM, showing exactly why this was a map that TSM chose. And Consulate is, if I remember correctly, still a quite heavily defender-sided map. It's not that even. I could be wrong based on stats, but from what I recall, this should not be a 4-1 for the attackers when you look at the operators that are banned.
To be fair, a quick reminder, this is one of TSM's best maps. They're very comfortable here. The recent statistics show them undefeated on this map. Not a lot to pull on, but you know, three out of 3 ain't bad. On the other hand, Space Station Gaming, they're comfortable here too. You know, not the worst record in being that, let's see, 6 times played, 4 times won, so not undefeated, but there's a much larger pool to draw on there, so pinch of salt on that, guys, but still, good map for TSM. They're very comfortable here, and they're proving so far to be more comfortable than SSG, because this is, I mean, we've seen a couple rounds here where it's just head-to-head, you know, and what we would expect in a TSM SSG match, and it's absolutely crazy close, just really awesome to watch. And then we saw that last round where SSG wasn't paying attention to CEO. I don't care if your utility got dealt with. Maybe there was an Evil Eye in CEO that Geo zapped to death. There was one outside of CEO. We saw that part. I don't care. If that happens, you need to rotate something to deal with that problem. You can't just let someone plant behind the desk where nobody even notices it's happening. You need to notice that sort of thing. And the only way to get in there is from rappel. Come on. They're not walking in through the building. There's plenty of forewarning.
Bolo has been by far and away the most effective player on TSM because not only has been shutting down all of the electronics and hunting down Canadian repeatedly, but he's winning his opening duels, and winning his opening duels quite handsomely, if I can say so.
Yeah.
Also now marking the Evil Eye cam to assist with Merc, but he has no utility left. Oh, it's an opportunity to walk right into that ace site. It's theirs for the taking, as most of Space Station have found themselves on that very bottom floor with C4s in hand, no doubt, but if you look at it, well, they've got the potential for 3 at the moment. There's one in the hands of Canadian, and he's going to be instrumental to stop TSM from being able to get yet another diffuser down. This is a team that has excelled at the objective play and have been able to work around the defenses that have been crafted by Space Station.
You can see how TSM is setting up to collapse on that bottom floor. They're not going to go into Tellers, which is the bomb site, because they're wary of that. C4s from below. Podraman goes down to a C4 tossed through a hole in the floor, going over to get the diffuser carrier. So that's one of your, well, it's your primary support player gone, and your planter gone.
Bosco up the spiral stairs, down goes Bolo, and SSG with those 2 kills. Well, they've got some breathing room now. Diffuser's been picked back up, it's been juggled, but SSG looks to lock out their very final defense. Diffuser's going down, Achieved will be successful, but it's all for naught. Get your points, folks. 4-2 for TSM through the first half is pretty good for attack on Consulate. Space Station have some work to do as both of these teams switch side momentum, favoring the now defending TSM.
Well, props to TSM. Their objective play was pretty awesome. They had 4 rounds where they got that diffuser down. They didn't win all of them, interestingly. They actually only won 2 of those 4 rounds where they managed to get the plant. So focusing on objective play almost to a fault, possibly. TSM will now have to defend, as you said. They'll start at the top floor. Now, the last round, I'd say that TSM hesitated just a little bit too much. They had a lot of opportunities to actually gain advantage, and they didn't seize upon any of them. The way that the TSM was trying to play that is they wanted to set up for a take into the bottom floor. They didn't want to go for a take into Tellers. They were worried about pressure from below, those C4s, and rightfully so. That pressure was abundant from SSG. But then TSM, they got stuck. They hesitated too much, and ultimately they just couldn't make anything happen. And then suddenly SSG, they're springing into action, taking the fight to their enemy, and winning that fight.
I think the big thing with that last round as well, if you look at it, was as everybody from Space Station moved to that bottom floor, TSM tried to drop as best as they could and engage fights. When Achieved starts to attempt that plant, you very easily could have just built the coverage around it rather than go for fights and then Achieved have, you know, almost a desperation plant.
I think he went for the desperation plant because they didn't want that to be the plan, but then it had to be the plan because they lost so many people.
I mean,
it's the only
the plan
guess.
actually worked. I mean, he was able to get the plant off. Now, mind you, it's because C4s had already been expended and most of SSG was looking elsewhere, but...
I'm saying, like, I don't think they planned on planting until they had clear control downstairs. That's why, that's my guess, anyway, because of how they were setting up, like Spiral, for example. They were starting to push down Visa. They all were looking to collapse downstairs. But then everybody died because SSG got a little aggressive.
Yeah.
And they poked it and won. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it was all just distraction effort, so like you said, so they could plant. I'm not sure.
It was an all-out scramble, as we saw. Opening pick to Bosco as Bolo gets shut down. He was so important on attack, on defense. His impact will be felt later, I'm certain of that, but he, in his engagement with Bosco, doesn't do all that much. So that's it.
Yeah.
1 minute in, you take out, well, the Mozzie. So that, depending on what Merc has, Merc almost certainly has a C4, but that could be the second C4 that TSM doesn't have at their disposal. Yeah, there is. There it goes. So no C4s left for TSM as they get used rather ineffectively.
Yep. We've got a bulletproof camera that'll gather information as well. That's really important. There's a lot of really great spots you can put that actually on this bomb site. SSG looking pretty comfortable though and confident. Their main goal here is, oh, that was an opportunity missed from Merc. If he just hadn't strafed away there, he would have killed the Capital, or not the Capital, rather the Zofia. I don't know why I thought there was a Capital. I thought I saw the crossbow over the top of his shoulder. I did not. There is no crossbow. Anyway, SSG is trying to take control of Yellow Stairs. And after they get that pick there, and another one from Bosco, that's... Oh, coincidence! That happens to be the Yellow Stairs player and the bathroom player who was supporting him. So there you go. That's control of Yellow Stairs well in hand. Those kills coming within a second of each other. Almost comedic timing there. TSM is effectively out of this round. Pojoman and Geo have almost no chance at winning this. They're going to be isolated by the angles that are established from Rappel, and they will be finished off quite easily. Pojoman, the last player, will go for a run out on the balcony and die to a Claymore. A flawless round for SSG.
Second flawless round in a row, and probably the tempo that you want to be able to establish. Not sure if it's sustainable for Space Station here, but it is definitely where they want to find themselves after that side swap. Also lucky for Space Station is that when they were taking that beating on defense, largely because it came at the tail end of their defensive run, Lycan withheld his tactical timeout. So there are still timeouts from both of these teams here that, very similar to an NFL game, we could see get used at the end of the matchup. Well, console office doesn't work out, and like so many teams do on this map, you have a variety of options. We've already seen every single site played through 7 rounds.
Oh.
It's going to be cafeteria/garage.
Did you see that? They 6-picked their Maestro into an Echo, and that's actually really interesting. The reason that they would do that is because they haven't been seeing an IQ played by SSG. And if there's no IQ being played, then Echo is indisputably the better option because he's going to be able to have his cameras persist. Whereas, on a basement defense, the Maestro Evil Eye positioning on this site is incredibly predictable and easy to dispatch. I can say that I have seen at this event, through the matches I've casted, we've seen Consulate, so what? This is the second time I think I've casted this, maybe the third. I've seen that nade that destroys the Evil Eye by White Van at least 3 or 4 times. It's so frequent and it's such a common spot. So if there's no IQ, yeah, bring yourself an Echo. Now, of course, you can still shoot those cameras. And even there's a Thatcher in play. That might be a problem for the Echo. But I agree with that 6-pick there for Pojoman. I think that's smart.
TSM will not benefit off of the negligence that Rogue displayed by shooting those default cameras, as you saw that from SSG. So they happen to know where they're all positioned on this map. They're not going to let that slip by. Unfortunate for Rogue, that ended up being a major blunder and cost them a round yesterday. They are now currently playing Na'Vi on the Rainbow Six Bravo channel, for those that are unaware.
And that's an elimination match too, so definitely really important that you see who wins on that one. Don't forget to check out Rainbow Six Bravo when you got the time.
Really well played here by TSM to anticipate a rush, but unfortunately Bolo is involved in the opening duel yet again, and he will be the opening death for the second round in a row. So SSG starting things off in a way that you kind of want to see. Also, you saw Toxic Canister get thrown out from Geo onto Yellow Stairs. Once again, like I said, anticipating a rush. With how early both of those panels on Garage went, I think TSM was looking like SSG was just going to be a whirlwind.
I think somehow the second panel didn't get opened up. there's a missing exothermic, and I heard it detonating, but yeah, the wall's not open. I don't know what caused that. It might be an explosive, maybe, from the defense, maybe. I'm taking a look here. Yeah, it could have been Merc's impacts, maybe.
Merc does have an impact grenade. How close was he at the time? That's the question. If they're able to stop that, well, the other thing, too, is that can work really well for the attackers because they will now have added protection if they're able to get that diffuser down. The question is, will Space Station strategy involve an execute? Well, it's a garage take. The answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
That tends to be the way it works. Merc just gets a little bit too antsy, and he narrowly misses out on Fultz. These are former teammates from Organized Chaos all the way down in Challenger League. Both have found quite a bit of success. Excellent coordination from SSG to flush out Merc as the door behind him explodes, and another logic bomb will give the position away of the remaining 3 members of TSM. Could we see a third flawless round here from Space Station? Well, the spread for TSM, it's not too bad. You've got the Mozzie of Achieved playing very far off site, and then Pojo and Geo to just kind of anchor things down.
We'll see if they can make that work, though. There's a lot of utility for TSM, so a lot of potential to deny the plant. Here come the Okai drones. There's only 1 detonated there from Pojo as he's able to deny, like they said, the 1 time, but the guns are coming alive for TSM. They get 2 kills before Geo is finished off. Achieved will take care of the player upstairs, leaving just 2 players downstairs, and now there's vertical pressure for TSM, which means that SSG has to rush into the site. They go for the push into kitchen, and Canadian will trade, leaving just Thinking Nade. He's got to pick up that diffuser and go for the plant. Achieved has to time this perfectly. Thinking Nade will be exposed for 2 seconds, but it doesn't look like Achieved realizes this. He doesn't even know where the plant happened. He'll see the enemy and land the shot. There it is, Achieved with the 1v1 clutch and the disable.
What a beautiful, beautiful flick from Achieved. And how different does that round go if Canadian and Pojo don't trade? If they don't trade that one out, as it looked like it was a bit delayed on Canadian, if they don't trade, there's no way Achieved has any hope, even with a flick like that. This is the point where I'd imagine a tactical timeout will be called by SSG unless they want to leave it until the very final round. We'll wait and see. But my, it doesn't look like there is actually going to be a timeout called. So no, Lycan will hold off until his team is facing possible match point at the hands of TSM. Bolo, after a strong start, has fallen off a touch on defense, and yet despite that, his team has split the 2 rounds that they've had to defend.
Yeah, they've been looking pretty good. I mean, 1 round away from match point here for TSM. That last round, oh, that was very, very close. Some weird coordination on the last 2 players for TSM. You saw Achieved decide to play it super safe, but he made it work. He hit the flick, and that's all that really matters.
There was obviously a very concerted call from SSG that when Canadian was down in front of White Van, we don't know where Achieved is. Achieved picks off Fultz from above, and Canadian can no longer plant in front of White Van because Achieved is sitting by yellow stairs. So where do you go? Anywhere else finds you exposed to the Echo, whose position you don't exactly know. So SSG makes the call, let's kill the Echo, we'll hold control of site, we'll have a 2v1. Pojo ended up answering back, and by taking Canadian out of action, it put Thinking Nade in a very challenging spot for him to be.
It's pretty much the only real smart call, though, from SSG. You can't fault them for the decision to try and go for that fight. TSM forced their hands, but I mean, that's just the nature of the game. SSG ultimately, in the end, they lost the fights, and that's the most important thing. I think that, oh, what? Oh, how did he even know he was there? What a shot from Merc.
Wow, what a surprise. Merc does something crazy and then shuts somebody down. There's a word for that. You know what to do. You know what to do.
Isn't it 2 letters?
They know what to do.
Yeah.
They know what to
Chat knows.
They know what to do.
So, a really big kill there from Merc. Bosco on the floor. That's going to hurt the roam clear here from SSG. This could be match point off of just that kill. It's really important. You get that opening kill. We've talked about this in the past. There's a solid win percentage for teams getting opening frags. If you get that initial kill, you usually win the round. For example, in the very first half, every team that got an opening kill won the round right after. And we only have seen, so far through this, 1 round where the opening kill did not directly correlate to the round win, and that was the last round. So, you know, it's rare that you you see that a team will lose after getting that opening frag.
Yeah, we talk about the percentage quite often, and I think the last time we saw it was high 70s, low 80%, where you end up becoming the victor, because it also depends on when the opening frag happens, right? If it happens late into the round, like with 20 seconds to go, then it's not really an opening frag. But in this position, you are SSG, you're likely only set of smokes, because we're assuming that Thinking Nade is holding frag grenades. We don't exactly know. But assuming that Thinking Nade might have access to either frags or smokes, you might not have... Oh, no. Thinking Nade has smokes available.
This is why I love this right here.
Yes.
Now we know. We've got 2 smokes, 2 nades, 3 stuns left on SSG. And here's going to be the nade onto yellow. Bolo dodges it adeptly, and he will relocate, because he doesn't need to stay upstairs. It's a mid-floor defense.
Yeah. Lobby is a tough nut to crack if you don't have the destruction on that second floor. There goes a logic bomb. It's going to be the first one. Everybody from TSM will freeze just to wait and silence their phones, as it's second floor control with Bosco very, very close to being able to drop on down. A lot of damage done to Achieved from 2 angles.
Because he managed to escape death there, it's huge for the team, but Rampy will get murked.
He wakes up. So does Geo on default. Canadian falls to Bolo. And with that earlier pick, it's a massive advantage for TSM that will grow and finish in spectacular fashion. TSM will move to match point.
So that's a pretty big win there for TSM. And one that I honestly didn't expect. The way that SSG was setting up there, after Rampy got that pick, and the HP values on both squads, I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, SSG have got this in the bag. They've got a decent enough amount of time to execute on it in the middle floor, but they just can't. Lots of layers to the defense there from TSM, the most notable being their retake of the top floor and the success they found in that. It's quite interesting. I'm surprised that SSG didn't clamp down harder on those staircases, where, like Yellow, for example, where Bolo retook top floor. You'd imagine that would be a high priority for SSG, especially considering they had manpower advantage. They didn't need to put all of their force into taking the site. But even that didn't work. Everything kind of hit the TSM brick wall when SSG threw themselves at that defense, and nothing really worked for SSG.
For any Canadians listening, I think you could call that the TSM turning point.
I don't...
I knew you weren't going to get it. It's fine. It's not a joke for you.
Okay.
There are people who will understand it, who will like it very much.
It's a hockey thing?
Yes. Well, yes. Mostly yes.
All right. Got it. I like hockey. I think it's cool. I just never got into it.
Like I said, there's not a lot of people who are going to get it, but there are people who will get it and they'll like it. That's all.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not for you.
Yeah. That's a prepped run out there on the balcony windows from Achieved. He is playing with reckless abandon, so he can actually interestingly follow the tracer from that camera getting destroyed, and he'll know where his enemies are. There's also somebody watching the other outside cams. In fact, actually, this is Achieved. So he's waiting for the right opportunity to go for a run out, or he's not going to. Mork is playing a very aggressive open window here, but he'll let Fultz walk by. Misses that chance.
I think the patience is a nice touch from TSM. They don't really need to go for all that much, given the fact that they're on match point. And there was no timeout that was taken from Space Station either, was there?
No one's taken a timeout yet.
I mean, unless you don't think it's going to do all that much. One of Bolo's drone army will grow as he gets a valuable piece of intel away from Space Station.
And that's a really big piece of info now contributing to TSM. Rampy has made his way into admin office. That clear is successful for SSG. Only took him about a minute. That's pretty quick. Merc is going to be calling this out with his heartbeat detector all the way down in the basement. He'll relocate accordingly. See if he can make his way into Visa to try and apply pressure from below onto admin office.
It's an angle that can be played onto somebody who's in the basement there, and you know that Bosco is awaiting it. We've seen a couple kills from it before, so don't think that it's entirely ineffective and can actually end up being a really crucial pick onto somebody. And that's really what SSG needs, is they need to be able to break this round open, because the longer it seems to go down, the more it's going to weigh on them, and the more TSM have ideally set themselves up to be able to hold things off. There's a little hole poked in the wall at the top of Visa stairs. That's by the ex-Kairos of Canadian. You can see right there. So that means that anybody that's going to push on over from Visa or anybody at the top of the projector, well, they're going to get spotted out if somebody plays inside of admin. But SSG maneuvers over. Another piece of the puzzle for SSG, but it's destroyed and upended by Merc. Down below with the C4, and SSG will trail. Opening pick for TSM is crucial, especially when the match is on the line. Final 40 seconds, good time for a logic bomb, and it's going to be an all-out punishing take from SSG. Fultz starts things off on to Pojo Man, still on Repel. Watching that connector window, but you're not going to get anything from Achieved. A sneaky angle from the Vigil as Diffuser gets juggled back and forth. Still inside of main lobby. There's the logic bomb, but Merc dealing significant damage to Fultz. Both very, very low. He'll lose the fight. Bolo peeks now, and Fultz has no idea what's happening next. So the 3 remaining members of SSG make that 2, try to push on in, make that 1. It's Bosco against the world with the match in TSM's hands. And they'll close it out 7-3 on their map, proving why Consulate has long been one of TSM's most formidable places to play. SSG, well, they're down 1-0.
TSM with the big win there. Of course, this is a best of 3, but putting yourself up one map just like that in a 7-3 scoreline, that's no joke. A good effort put up by SSG. Bosco in particular dropping 11 kills in that match. Canadian not too far behind at 7. But not the perfect result that you're looking for if you're SSG. And your main performer from yesterday, who got the best day of any individual player for this whole tournament so far, is Rampy. Dropped 45 kills in one best of 3. He got 1 kill out of that map. He's going to need to do better in future maps. Of course, there's still time for him to show up. In fact, we've seen those star players not show up for map number 1, and then suddenly map number 2, map number 3, they're doing some crazy nonsense that you just can't anticipate, and suddenly they're back in everyone's good graces.
Yeah. A 1-8 for Rampy is not what you want, and it's very easy for us to, maybe beat themselves up over that kind of result, but when you are SSG, you need a better performance from somebody like Rampy. There's a lot of depth on Space Station. If Rampy doesn't show up, you've got somebody like Bosco, you've got somebody like Canadian, you've got Fultz, you've got Thinking Nade that can carry some of that weight.
Yeah.
But so many rounds, you expect Rampy to be the one to entry successfully on defense, to be able to roam successfully. Now, the way that SSG used Rampy on defense was a lot more conservatively, so he wasn't in a position to really be taking those fights the same way that we saw Canadian do so, or the same way that we saw Fultz or Thinking Nade do so. Fultz, of course, was very aggressive on that Maestro role a number of times. But if you're looking at SSG, you need a better performance from Rampy for the second map. You now turn your sights towards Bank. It's a good map for Space Station. You got to win it at this point, or else TSM goes up 2-0, and they're out of the groups, and they're off until Tuesday. That's a long time for them to be able to prep for the event. Space Station will take a time to discuss with their team. They did not take a timeout in the actual match, which possibly could have been of benefit.
Again, a quick reminder, because this is a winner's match, if you lose this best of 3, it's not all over. If you win it, then you're out of groups. Done deal. You've pushed yourself into the playoffs. Congratulations. You now get another second layer of safety net because of that loser's bracket that exists in the playoffs. I'm so excited for that, by the way.
Yes.
We've never done that before at a major event. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to give us the best result we possibly could ask for.
The finals to the Six Invitational aren't for 8 days.
It's
a very long. It's a very long event, and I'm so pumped.
Yep.
To just see it through to the end. There's a lot of storylines that we've looked at about teams, and there's another storyline going on right now involving Na'Vi and Rogue. We don't know if they're up one map or not because we haven't been kept abreast of what's going on in that other matchup, but on the other second Twitch channel, Rainbow Six Bravo, you can multi-Twitch it. You can watch it on multiple browsers. You watch it on multiple homes. Maybe buy a couple homes. Maybe buy a yacht. Maybe fly, with a plane and then have screens in the plane. I don't know. Do whatever you want.
You got choices.
You got choices.
That's life.
Maybe buy a couple different, places in the Swiss Alps, and then you can run from one house to in the Alps, and then watch it in both them. I don't know. Do whatever you want.
You get a helicopter between your two Swiss Alps
homes, and then just go from round to round.
Yes.
It's very simple.
And make sure you're watching in a jacuzzi with Dom Perignon by your side.
Very important that you do that. Very important that that's the way that you enjoy these matches. But no, there's the storyline here for me in this match is that SSG is a team that online has not been the most consistent. They have sat in the middle of the pack in North America, fluctuating from second, third, all the way down to fifth. They had an issue with being able to close out matches. They had an issue with being able to take leads and translate that to victories, and a lot of people gave them the moniker of draw station. But TSM last season was dreadfully awful in best of ones. They were one of the worst teams, and they made a bit of a controversial roster change after they'd won DreamHack Montreal. They had a run of bad games, only a couple. They dropped Jarvis from the team. Gotcha, their coach at the time, moved to a player role, and it was enough for them to avoid, possibly being relegated, even though it wasn't really a major concern of theirs. They ended up finishing, sixth, I think it was, and just narrowly avoiding out on relegations. But now, adding Gio to this roster, whether it just be composure, whether it be the coaching of Bagel, whether it be the team continuously improving, they have been significantly better on best of ones, and they are the best team in North America statistically. But on best of threes, they are just as good, if not better, than they used to be, which is where they were most feared.
I gotta say one thing. Based on what I've seen so far through this match, it does look to me like TSM is in SSG's heads. I know that's not, it's not a good thing. It's not gonna give us the best match that you could hope for. But last time we saw these teams match up in Pro League, actually, it was a 7-4 victory for TSM.
Yes.
And it was absolutely dominant. It was one of the most one-sided matches we've seen SSG participate in. And TSM started getting even hotter as the match progressed. This map number 1 was an even more one-sided affair, a 7-3. And to be fair to SSG, it was TSM's map pick, and it is one of TSM's best maps in Consulate. But at the same time, it did look like SSG came to play in those first few rounds, I should say, and then suddenly, somewhere in that match, they lost the plot. They lost track of what was happening because SSG stopped playing as aggressively as they did initially, and they started reverting back to their structure, relying on that structure. To be fair, SSG's structure is really thorough. It's really well thought out, and it can give you a lot of edges in a lot of different ways. But when you are just playing around that, you are not as dynamic as you need to be when playing against a team like TSM. You have to be capable of adapting to your opponent. You have to be capable of making those aggressive plays and getting those advantages early on, like Canadian did in the very first round that ended up getting, nullified because of the server crashing.
It was such a strong start for Space Station, and they're going to need it now as we load into our second map here. Could this be the end of Space Station's ability to finish first in the group? Will TSM be the very first team to make it to the main stage, if you want to call it that, or the playoffs? At least, Bank could be the place for us to determine that. On defense, first TSM, and they will, of course, ban first, and it's a thermite ban. Interesting.
So, interestingly, actually, TSM has a slightly better record on Bank in recent matches in the last few months or so. They've played it 4 times, won it 3 times, whereas SSG has played Bank 5 times, won it 3 times. So, again, a larger pool to pull on for SSG, and technically the same amount of wins for both these teams on this map, but still an overall better record for TSM, and yet it is SSG's map pick. Now, they've also seen some draws here. SSG drew Luminosity most recently in Pro League on Bank, and that was, the more recent result on this map. And even before then, it was actually the last time they played Bank was, it looks like, the Invitational qualifiers, I believe. That's probably what that is.
It's been a while then in that case.
Yeah.
Unless we lack critical information.
Well, all I know is that there's always a space between when teams are playing maps often, because there's only so much Siege competition, and if you can look really far back, you can look like a year back, and you can get a lot more info statistically, but a lot of that is actually outdated. Teams change their maps, they change the way they play those maps, and they change their proficiencies on those maps. A good example is, remember when G2 was the Consulate team? That is still a good team on Consulate, But that whole them being dominant on Consulate, that ship sailed years ago. And you could look back on those stats, but they're not relevant anymore. What is relevant is the ban phase that has just transpired. Thermite, Jackal, Echo, and Maestro are your bans on Bank, which means Mira is let through the ban phase on Bank.
Not going to be played, though, as it's a middle floor defense to start, with TSM opting to go to Teller's Archives. All right, you don't really need a Mira here. If you're going to use her, it's usually going to be on that second floor, but instead you're going to go with a very common Castle setup. Castle has seen a surge in his pick rate over the past split, and a lot of it is the presence of Mozzie. A lot of it is the presence of Mute as operators, because all three of them synergize very well, just as Vigil does too.
Valkyrie is going to be a mainstay on defense.
Yes.
You don't even
on a
need
map this big, absolutely.
She'll be played every single round, and because she's played every single round, you'll see a lot of IQ. Right now, there's no IQ being brought by SSG, but hey, I'm sure that'll change moving forward once they start getting marked by those cameras and they go, uh-oh, we need to deal with that problem.
Yeah.
It's probably the reason you see faults on Ashe. Usually when that call is made, when a player is put on Ashe, it's the player themselves or the team saying to the player, whoever's saying it doesn't really matter, but somebody's saying, just frag out, dude. And it could be faults, it could be a squad, but he's in a position right now where he just wants to frag out. And that's why he's put himself, or his squad has put him on this Ashe roll. Light hard destruction, of course. The extent that which you can bring, though, I mean, all of the hard destructors available have been brought.
By attackers.
Can we talk about the fact that there's no IQ present as well?
Yeah, like I said, the fact that Fultz is on Ashe instead of IQ, that's going to really make that Valkyrie more powerful. But speaking of power, Rampy is establishing the advantage with a power play.
He's already matched his kill total from all of last game, and that for the round as Geo peeks on out and avenges his teammates. But Geo's going to pick up a second kill now, as it's early action.
It's actually even now, despite SSG getting that initial kill. Well, look at this position from Achieve, though. He has caught his opponent off guard and will kill the Hibana in ATMs before being refragged by Bosco right after. So 2 kills for Bosco in this round. Diffuser down at ATMs. There's plenty of time for these last 2 defenders, or rather attackers, to go pick up that diffuser. Last 2 defenders, on the other hand, are going to position themselves to deal with the attack they now know to be coming from the main lobby.
So you've got those 2 in main lobby versus 2, one inside of the site and the other lurking off site. And Geo can be recalled, he's very close, and by playing on those main stairs, you'd seen that the soft wall that leads into the A bomb site has been entirely shot open. So Geo's got a vantage point if he needs it. But he's been spotted, so he's going to move over. There's a Valkyrie camera giving pings on the remaining members of SSG, and that's very valuable information now that both Pojoman and Geo will have. But also the 3 members of TSM, who are currently sitting on the bench, they'll be able to give their calls. Speaking of calls, it'll now go on to the defenders as well. So both teams are benefiting from information as the defuse starts to go down from Bosco on a soft wall. Geo will peek on over, head removed by thinking nade. C4 will not connect the way that you want it to. Pojo finds one with the MPX in hand. All he needs to do is turn the corner, but this is going to be a great angle held from Bosco. And he just needs to sit on top of that diffuser, and SSG will take the very first round.
So, a couple things there. Number 1, information is limited. You've got Valkyrie, yes, but clearly she didn't have a camera in Tellers. Why is information limited? It's limited because of the ban phase and the way that that played out. Echo and Maestro both dealt away with. Those could have been useful operators in that situation. There's other options, of course, but the lack of information on Tellers was to TSM's downfall. You could see they're bringing a pulse in this round. They really want to be sure that they're going to be able to tell where that plant goes down next time. But I believe it will be a different bomb site, likely the bottom floor for this next round, because Tellers did not work out great for TSM. The thing that I'm most interested in is how we saw the Castle, I believe it was Geo, how we saw him play on his roam. He could have challenged from elevator hallway. He could have gone upstairs and challenged from the balcony by Banana. He could have stayed upstairs and impacted from above to hold one of the bottlenecks, one of the Teller's doors. He could have done a lot of things. He could have gone over to Square, met up with his teammate instead of Archives, and they could have had a 2-on-2. But he went into small office and then got dispatched as he was attempting to rotate. It was a good read from SSG to get Geo out of the picture. But still, unfortunately, all of the decisions that could have happened there, the one that Geo made was the one that didn't work out. Not his fault, just unlucky. Now, another thing, the C4 placement. Again, not anyone's fault, but it's unlucky that C4 didn't get the planter.
It was very close.
So close.
No way this is going to work, Merc.
I mean,
come on.
I would be surprised if he gets away with this.
Come on, Merc.
And by get away, I mean get a kill. There's nobody going up there. I think SSG's aware.
He falls off. Well, the two members of SSG that spawn in that area are both on drones, so nobody from Alley will immediately get to the top of the building.
Yeah.
And in fact, you know it's very risky to do that, so you just head on in through open area down below, and if you get the call that it's clear, take advantage of it.
Can I be honest also? Getting on top of that roof by back alley is probably one of the slowest ways to get to the building, because you have to rappel up or climb a ladder up. Either way, it's the same thing as getting on the building normally, but you can be stopped there by either the peak that Merc was just showing, a peak from the stairs even further back, similar to the one Merc was just showing, or from somebody playing and trading, opening the window and just killing you as you drop. It's usually a bad idea to go on that roof, and yeah, that's why you don't see anyone from SSG doing that. They all went through the actual on the floor, going up to the building.
Mira is unbanned, so we will see her usage down on that bottom floor, as it's a Nook pick as well from Fultz, and the way that Nook gets used on a map like Bank as well, you head on in towards the garage. At long range, I don't know how great Geo is going to be with that Vector, but the gun in the hands of Fultz, that FMG, is also not that strong of a weapon too, so it's going to be a battle, even though the FMG was most recently buffed. It's going to be a battle of who just hits their shot first, and if you get a headshot, well, you're lucky.
It's interesting that Geo is going to be playing this particular battle with the Vector without the extended barrel. Now, some people like the extended barrel on the Vector, some people don't. There's mixed opinions. A lot of people are using it, but the most important thing to note is that it is going to help with the damage drop-off, and the Vector has a ton, man. At that range, if you're not landing the headshot, which I trust you to do, but if you're not landing the headshot, you're not getting the kill. Rampy will get the first frag here off of his grenade, and there goes one of the players on TSM. Achieved the pulse. A very valuable operator in this scenario. Two
members of SSG have now situated themselves by the garage, and this is an angle that was, I think, popularized by Chaos, if I remember correctly. Hell engaged, and in Fultz goes. Geo knows that there's going to be a rush, so he will just sit and wait. There's a Valkyrie camera playing inside a garage, and well, if Geo hits this shot, then Fultz is done for. Canadian above picks away at Bolo, and SSG with 30 seconds left have a commanding lead in this round, especially if Geo is unable to do anything. Almost completely out of ammunition in that magazine as the sledge will circle on over. Rampy is having a great game so far, which is going to force Merc and Pojo Man into a really bad spot. Canadian has very minimal HP if he goes for a defuse. It's almost all but over. He'll start to attempt it, and there's Merc now to spring out. Down goes the Nook, but a vault through the window, and it's Rampy to swiftly end him. 3 kills for Rampy. He's playing much better on Bank already. TSM, or SSG rather, is up 2-0.
Yeah. SSG, really solid start here. And they looked even better on that basement attack than they did on their Tellers attack, to be honest. It's a much more one-sided event. Both of these rounds have looked really good for SSG, though. Not a lot to say about TSM. I'd say the information, or lack thereof, for TSM is really their main downfall here. Instead of playing your Mira in the garage, maybe I don't know, anyone else? You got other choices, but it's not a really great position for a Mira, and I think we saw that really clearly displayed by Geo's inability to win any of those gunfights. To be fair to him, it was a 2v1. But I really wouldn't place that on Geo's shoulders either. I would more place that on the operator that you're using to hold that position. The Vector is not good at that range. It's just not. It's not the perfect place for the Vector, and that's why people often bring the extended barrels, because to mitigate that. If you can make it a little bit better for the Vector, why not do that? Not so though in that round. We saw that garage engagement be pretty important and impactful for SSG. But it wasn't the extent of the reasoning why SSG won the round. The majority of it I would actually attribute to the site take.
Yeah.
And the fact that the pulse was dispatched so quickly, that limits your information for the defense, and from there, just out of control.
We were also so fixated on that nuke play through Garage, right? It was captured our attention for a solid minute at just trying to see Geo and Fultz square off against each other and who would be able to get the upper hand. And while the answer ended up being, I guess technically neither of them, because it was Rampy who got the kill as he just sprang down the main stairs and burst forth through the doorway and gunned down Geo. So
yeah.
But SSG will go back to a very familiar lineup that we've seen. It's going to be yet another defense downstairs. It was a risky move for TSM to go to Teller's archives right off the hop, and continuing a good tradition and a strong tradition, opening duel goes in favor of Space Station. There's another for them too, as Merc is above, and he'll lose the protection of the castle barricade, seek refuge by the filing cabinet as Fultz stairs, and will have the cross if Merc comes out and misses his shots. Merc does get droned, so he's got nowhere to go, and I think he's well aware of this. Possibly two angles for them to be covered, and well, it doesn't matter what angle it is, it's Fultz on the main hold to be able to take Merc down. 2 kills for SSG on that entry is pretty decent for Bank, especially when you're executing on the site down below.
It's looking a whole lot like a 3-0 here, Parker, and I don't know what TSM is going to be able to do to stop that. Geo has switched his barrel attachment, so I think maybe it was a mistake that he had the compensator on there, and one of his teammates was like, hey man, don't forget to put your extended on. Mojo Man peeks a little too aggressively and is dispatched by Rampy. So now TSM in a 2v5. This is pretty much over at this point. The odds of Achieved and Geo clutching this out, very, very slim. Drop down's opened up. SSG has a minute to execute. Ash Charge is coming in here to open up lines of sight towards red. Chief has to hold the main stairs, the hallway drop. He has to do a lot for his team right now. Geo has to deny the plant. He has but 1 C4 to do that with. There's, of course, a C4 in the hands of Achieved, but that's not going to be anywhere near the plant, so it doesn't really matter. Wall and server's going to get it opened up, so the C4s will be shot midair. Grenade misses, luckily for TSM. The plant coming down from Canadian. Doesn't seem like Geo's aware of that. He misses his C4. That's unfortunate, but it wouldn't have mattered. Canadian was out of there. Geo lands a second shot, but it's not going to matter also as SSG locks that out.
Geo heard you, though. He was using the extended barrel on the Vector, so at least that's something that they got going for them. But right now, TSM is getting slaughtered on this roam. Their ability to play off-site is extremely weak. They're getting droned out very effectively by Space Station on an extremely technical map. You know, Bank, you have a lot of I's to dot and a lot of T's to cross. This is a phrase that I employ quite often to talk about Bank because it is a very challenging map for teams that are not coordinated. You often need to be very, very meticulous. There are only a couple teams who are able to capitalize off of the chaos on Bank that can come from a team that just kind of flies by the seat of their pants. NIP is a very good example of this, and is a team that, to me, really sticks out in my mind as being able to take advantage of how big and how open Bank is and just run over their opponents. But right now, TSM is not doing that. Whether they're playing scared, whether they just simply are not as well coordinated. You mentioned that they had a better record on Bank than SSG. It's very clear that SSG has been well practiced here.
Better record on Bank when you take into account the small amount of maps that have been sampled. I would say that SSG has a similar record, though it is slightly worse. SSG's played this map more.
Yes.
Quite a lot more in recent history, so that's worth noting.
Rampy's top fragging right now along with Bosco, and they have been very significant contributors to those opening duel stats, of which SSG is currently perfect.
Yeah, they've been winning their opening duels, and of course, that is a strong favor.
And it's not just them, though. It's how they've been droned in. Canadian has been sitting on drone an awful lot. Bosco droned Rampy in on at least 2 separate rounds. Fultz was getting droned in down below through the garage. So as much as we will highlight and sing the praises of Bosco or Rampy because they have 5 frags apiece, it's not really all them, especially when you can see a perfect example of that. It's not involving Rampy or Bosco, but Fultz on Ash when he was able to pick off Merc, sitting inside of Tellers by the filing cabinet. He gets droned by Canadian, so Merc needs to move, and Fultz is there to capitalize off it. Without a drone, Fultz doesn't necessarily get that kill. And even though it shows up statistically, in Fultz's column, it's technically just as much Canadians for being able to put that pressure on Merc and give the information to Fultz, his teammate. So
this is a cheeky spawn peek here from Merc. See if it pays out. Doesn't seem like it's going to, but it depends on where that sledge goes. Yeah, Thinking Nade, actually not the sledge. Thinking Nade will decide to go up to the wall instead of going wide, and he's safe from Merc's spawn peek. SSG not going to lose a player that early on, it seems. CEO defense, this is the first time we've gone to CEO. And I think that at this point, TSM are kind of grasping at straws. They're trying to get whatever they can get when it comes to defensive wins. Because, oh boy, does not look good. No, for TSM on defense.
Tactical timeout from Bagel, maybe even just to settle the nerves down. TSM are not going to be able to say that a poor performance here was due to a lack of a warm-up scrim, as their warm-up scrim happened to be on the map Consulate against SSG in map number 1. So,
and they did really well.
And they did quite well. So TSM will obviously need to figure something out, and that's why you have somebody like Bagel on the squad who is experienced. He was over in Europe for a season prior, and yesterday in his interview, that's part of why he credited his success, or the success of his team against a squad like Rogue, is that he knows the ins and outs of EU meta and EU play quite effectively. The only real thing that's happened outside of drones being expended from SSG, as you can see, there are a couple players that have lost their drones, though we do have to wonder how much of the drones are up to date. Is that the wall, the double panel wall, which is often referred to as Kanto spot, just near the main stairs, has been opened up. And it's going to be Rampy who could take advantage of this. He is within striking distance of a grenade or two that can be tossed into the lap of somebody from TSM. The only blind spot, or the only opening, an area that you need to be careful of if your Rampy now just got cut off by a smoke grenade. He will go prone and get droned on in towards the top of Banana and towards those 4 windows.
Rampy's in a winning position here, and Canadian is facilitating that win by droning Rampy in. He can call out that the entirety of reception is clear, which means Rampy can play more aggressively on Banana. It's very powerful. It's not going to win the round by itself. Rampy has to do that, but he is in the spot that could make that play happen. As a sledge, he can also open this castle barricade whenever he wants.
Geo is down below his Valkyrie with a C4 likely still in his pocket, so he can end anybody who goes to make that plant, which will likely be Canadian. First opening duel for TSM, make that 2! Achieve jumps out of the window. He'll grab 2 frags and then try to get away. This should be a pick for Thinking Nade. There you go, with Rampy taking out Merc back to a 3v3. So the advantage that TSM had was mostly based on time. 13 seconds, Rampy is still upright. Geo is still down below. Pojo Man on his belly. Bolo dispatches Thinking Nade. And Canadian will need to attempt the plant, but he's under fire. Rampy guns one down. Canadian goes for the plant. There's the Valkyrie from below. And yeet! That's the round for TSM. They'll take it their very first round here on Bank.
Yeet, indeed. There's TSM putting up some rounds, but it was very close. You can see it on their faces. That was not a confident victory. A nice try there from SSG to get the plant down. The thing that I think is worth noting the most is that we had Rampy in a position to do a lot of damage through the majority of that round, and he did not do as much as you might anticipate because he and his team waited too long to use him. So wasn't as effective as it could have been. That's not really on Rampy. It's just the decision making and the shot calling is just a little bit too slow there for SSG because the time ran out. And it's possible that the reason they slowed things down was because of the run out from Achieve, which managed to net 2 kills on that North Rappel. Yeah, but still, that was a really slow take into the site, and SSG was suffering from the time. You could probably tell that the player who was planting on SSG might even have known about the C4 from below too. The way that SSG was setting up, I think they were wary of it, and it doesn't matter because it was 0-0. If you're planting and you're on 0-0, as soon as you stop planting, you lose the round as an attacker. There is no on and off. He couldn't have dodged that C4, so done deal. As soon as the marks came in, he was a dead man. And first win for TSM. CEO was the right call. They'll go to Tellers, which is the closest that TSM has come to a win apart from that last round. We'll see if this is going to be the start of a 3-3 maybe in the first half. 3-3 is a happy place. It's fine. Perfectly good for TSM.
It's all right.
It's all right, yeah. You get Dizzle in here, he can say it for us better.
Dizzle might be a little bit busy today.
Oh yeah, he's definitely going to be very busy.
And if he's not busy today, then he might not be busy for the rest of the week.
Oh, that's, yeah, because they're in a, so for those of you who don't know, Dizzle is the coach of Fnatic. He is in an elimination match now, so he has to win. And yeah, and if he doesn't put in the work now, then he and his
they'll need to put in more work later.
I guess way later.
At some point, yeah, but definitely not here. And
yeah,
given the fact that this Fnatic squad has actually made the main stage of the last two Six Invitationals, one under the banner of Mind Freak, and then last year under the banner of Fnatic, where they actually lost at the hands of their regional or inter-regional adversaries, Norengo. Well, you don't want those expectations to fall that short.
Fault's using the repel to his advantage there. The cool thing about repel is that you can move yourself on so many axes at once. It's too unpredictable to really out-aim someone who's constantly moving on repel. You get lucky or you don't, basically. Achieve didn't get very lucky. He heals himself up, but he'll be He'll be dispatched there by Rampy on the third time, and you know, it's better late than never.
Bolo refrags, though, and it's a trade-off in terms of man count back to a 4-4, as Thinking Nate and the Thatcher will sit it out for a minute or so that's left in round number 5. Yet another for Space Station. You were mentioning that Ash on Repel, and well, it's not going to be achieved as he was already dead, but it's Merc this time around. Unsure if Bolo the Mozzie can be spotted. No, he's on the other side of a hard wall, so he's safe from anybody lurking on those windows. He'll actually use the hatches at his disposal, and he'll scoot off.
So at least 2 C4s, possibly 3 C4s down, 3 C4s downstairs. 45 seconds though. So Space Station with a manpower advantage is not actually in that much of a hurry. They can slow things down, open up from above, and really deliberate.
It's Canadian, he's got the diffuser, so the objective will be in his hands. C4 from Geo catches Rampy above. No more Reign of Terror from the sledge. But still, if they just bleed out on trades, SSG will be much better position. You've also got the Mozzie Bolo playing over by the front desk towards Tellers. He's low on HP, so one bullet will be his undoing as he gets flashed temporarily. X-Kairos will give away close to his position. Very narrowly missing out. Great patience here from Bolo. Is he going to be able to capitalize off of this? The Maverick of Bosco is so close, finds Geo. Bolo pops up. 1, 2, but Diffuser still goes down. Bolo pulls out the super shorty. 2 kills. He's so close to getting them all. Fultz is behind him. A mark and then a flash as Fultz will circle around, but the bigger issue for Bolo is that timer. They've set the clock now. Bolo unable to hit the shots. He just drags a little too slow. Fultz hangs on. And it's enough for SSG to grow their lead.
Nice triple kill there from Bolo, but he just didn't have enough HP. And that is the type of situation, I hate to say it, that is the type of situation where you really wish you had the commando. I actually prefer the Roni myself, but Bolo ran out of ammo when he was engaging the planter. That's so unfortunate. That is, oh, that's rough to watch, because he could have just won the round single-handedly there for his team. He's getting close to the end of the timer, and there was very little room for SSG to actually plant. A little bit more ammunition in your magazine, and you're fine if you're Bolo, but not so. Not his fault. I prefer the Roni too.
Need to locate and defuse bombs.
It's just in that situation, it's worse. TSM will go to the bottom floor for their last defense. See how they fare here. They haven't done so well on the bottom floor in the past. SSG has won both times TSM has gone to this bottom floor.
Once again, I think a lot of this really comes back to the off-site play for TSM. It has been very lacking on defense. Very, very lacking. Opening duels, very much favoring SSG, but it's not even opening duels. It's not a single kill. It's what comes next. Almost every single round, Space Station has taken that first kill and made it a second within 10 seconds of each other.
Yeah.
So your opening frag becomes opening frags. And then you find a huge disadvantage for the remaining anchors of TSM, and they cannot deal with the aggression that Space Station is bringing. And because Space Station is heavily favoring this lineup, they've obviously practiced around it. They're not going to blow up their composition. They don't need anything else. Capitao is available. He's not being played. Zofia is available. She's not being played. Dokkaebi, available. She's not being played. So most of this comp that we see, this lineup from Space Station, is almost like a bruiser lineup. It's not designed to disable you. It's not designed to disorient you or slow you down. It's just, it opens up angles, it does a lot of heavy soft destruction, and then they beat you in terms of gunfights. And for SSG, everything is going very much according to plan, and will continue to do so. The Castle of Merc, who seemed to have entombed himself inside of Tellers, peeks, gets taken out at the front desk, and once again, opening pick for Space Station.
I'm not really sure why Merc is trying to take that fight.
With a UMP. He's a madman.
It's a long-range fight, so there's going to be a lot of damage drop-off. UMP doesn't have the worst, but it does have a lot, as it's an SMG. The biggest thing, though, is that in that engagement, because of the Teller's desk, it is a headshot sort of battle. So you can win it, I guess, with an UMP, but it's just not ideal. Especially when you compare it to the R4C. Now, what we do know is that both those players have nuts aim, and Merc's definitely capable of winning it. I don't know if that was the right call, though, and he didn't win it. So, you know, okay, in this situation, it definitely wasn't the right call. Now, TSM have lost control of the roam, but there's only a minute left for SSG. Now, I say there's only a minute left for SSG, and SSG's been in this position multiple times through the day. It seems like they're able to win when their back is up against the time, I guess. SSG's plenty capable of taking 20 seconds in a 5v5 and turning it into a round win. They've proven that time and time again. We'll see if they can do it one more time. They're pushing into server. Pojoman's going to try and slow this take down using his gas canisters. That's his last one. It goes out at the 35-second mark. He'll try to hold on to the drop down. The gas canister will mean there's only one way for the attackers to get in here. A wild peek there from Pojo, but he had to dodge the nade. He comes back and gets killed by the nade. Well, downed by it, finished off by Canadian. Geo will get Rampy, though, who had dropped into server using that mirror window, which is going to be a big advantage for the defense. The counter to the mirror window is going to be the players inside of Garage, but there's just not enough time for SSG to play around that. False goes for a rush. He's going to try and challenge Red, but Canadian actually gets the player who was on that window. What a shot from False! And thinking Nade gets the last kill. SSG will take that round confidently in the half, 5-1.
TSM burned their timeout after the third round, so now that they are in free fall, they're going to have to rely on just being much better on attack. Bank is an even map, so again, it is often at the mercy of your operators. But I don't think, if you're TSM right now, I don't think you're very confident on this side swap one bit. You have nothing to stop the momentum other than this side swap. That's the only thing that could possibly blunt what is going for SSG, which is basically everything. Merc only on one kill. He has been getting killed way too early. Bolo has been playing well enough, but nobody on the team has really showed up. Most of Geo's kills have been impactless in rounds that are already lost.
You know, it's like we took the teams and we went ahead and swapped them.
Except for, was it Geo that was on Valkyrie? That tossed up the C4 that one round? That was impactful. I will say that much.
I don't know. I can check.
I believe so.
I'll take double.
You don't need to. It doesn't matter. But it's just, it really doesn't matter.
It's fine. I'll find out.
Yes, it was.
There you go.
Yeah. That was the one round that they won. Now, the one good news for TSM is that you don't have to roam on attack the same way you do on defense. But if SSG can roam better and smother the attackers, the way that we know that there are bank teams that play that aggressive style, well, TSM have obviously struggled to hold control of bank on defense. They are now going to have a much tougher task of grabbing that control as attackers while dealing with, look at that lineup for SSG. Castle, Mute, Mozzie, and Vigil. But hey, goodbye to the Castle. I don't know where he was, but that's an opening pick from Merc. So a better start for TSM than we'd seen from them in almost every single round on defense.
Nobody's lost a round that they've gotten the opening pick in just yet. But who knows? Maybe this is going to be the first. We do see that at least once or twice per match, so it's entirely possible. The roam upstairs for SSG is being punished. Next one on the chopping block is going to be Rampy. Let's see what he can do, or if he's going to be just dealt away with. He's been droned out. Pressure coming in from the CEO windows. He knows there's somebody on North Rappel. He's wary of that. Goes prone. His feet might be exposed just ever so slightly, but it's hard to say. Looks like no. Rampy goes to the peak, though. Thinking Nade will get Merc as he tries to push over towards Janitor. There goes Rampy, who peeks wide into Geo. Just can't win that engagement. It's hard to do so against Repel, but Thinking Nade's still upstairs. A quick reminder, guys, this is a basement defense right now. And all the action is taking place on the top floor, thanks to the way that SSG has set themselves up. Ooh, bad timing there from Bolo. And he's not even going to double check it. He dies. What a retake there from Canadian, who just gets the luckiest timing I've seen in ages, as does that player who just dropped into open area. And now TSM. Oh boy. Remember yesterday when we said they couldn't catch a break?
Well, that was Dark Zero versus FaZe, not TSM.
Oh yeah, it was Dark Zero.
It was Dark Zero who could catch a break, and then they started catching every break in the world at the end of their matchup.
I wonder if that's going to happen to TSM, because that was just so unlucky.
I mean, you have some tools to work with. Now, there's still 2 EMPs in the pocket at Geo. You can get rid of those mute jammers. You can stop those Valkyrie cameras, and you can disable the cloaking device from Canadian. You've likely got a C4 in the hands of Fultz, maybe in the hands of Thinking Nade as well. They'll go an EMP to try and stop the electronics that are at the bottom of blue stairs. Drone's still on the table for TSM too, so not everything is totally in favor of SSG. It is winnable, but the problem is that your only destruction will come from the X-Kairos. You've got 2 rounds of them. There's soft walls next to those castle barricades that are positioned by the A door. Pojo will use them to knock that castle barricade down, as we mentioned. Final EMP will go out, and it'll just do its job. Over towards Gold, Canadian on alert. They'll come back and roam deep inside of the lobby. Type 89 in hand. There goes the C4. It's just throws aplenty. Fultz goes down 2v2, but there's Canadian. He's on the retreat. He manages to catch Pojo, who has a tiny portion of HP, and Thinking Nade inside a garage. A big round from Thinking Nade. Match point for SSG and a 3K for the Nade himself.
It looks like Bank is going to be even more one-sided than we saw map number 1, Consulate, be, which was a 7-3 in the end, favored TSM. SSG's looking to get a 7-1 right now. That round was all TSM. They got the opening kills, they cleared out the roamers quite effectively, and then everything goes wrong. Because SSG, not double downs, not triple downs, but quadruple downs on their roam. They send 4 people upstairs to try and counteract the roam clear. TSM, not expecting this, have a lot of trouble dealing with those retake players from main lobby stairs, from Janitor, whatever, wherever.
We're meant to be together.
What?
You just inadvertently quoted Shakira, by the way.
Did?
Yes, you did.
Oh. Anyway, so the roam clear was great from TSM, but it just wasn't enough because SSG was roaming so much more than TSM could anticipate. Which is, it's odd. It was a really odd roam from SSG. A heavy investment. But it worked, so, I mean, can you really blame them? No, you can't.
5 seconds left.
SSG now on match point. They need but 1 round to end this. They'll be roaming upstairs while they defend inside of Tellers.
The tiebreaker map between these 2 teams, which we almost certainly will need, is Kafe. Yesterday, we got to watch TSM play it against Rogue, and what happened, Michael? Well, it was a very close match, if you recall. It was not played by SSG against Na'Vi yesterday, so we don't have any recent footage from Space Station on that. But if you go to SSG's record through Pro League, you can take a look at the last time they played that map. Regardless, in a best-of-3 setting with that much pressure on them, it's going to obviously differ. On a map like Kafe, it's been played 4 times with a record of 2-1-1, but it is also the most banned map by Space Station.
Yeah, they really don't like going to Kafe for some reason. And maybe they know this and they've practiced it and they're prepared for this tournament because I think it's important to practice your worst maps going into a thing like an invitational because teams will want to bring you there. On the other hand, though, solo mid hasn't really played it very much either.
Was Merc even droned on in there? Really excellent refrag, or well, almost refrag, as Merc nearly gets dragged down, but Achieve has his teammates back, and Fultz is taken out of action. There goes a Valkyrie camera 2 to add insult to injury for Fultz. As now Pojo, man, is the unfortunate benefactor of a couple shots from an SMG-11. TSM with that opening pick, especially on the Nitro Cell of Fultz, is great, but the opening pick was not enough for round number 7.
Oh, so close to greatness there for Pojo Man. Thinking Nade, though, wary of that. The flash lands perfectly. It will full flash Thinking Nade. Pojo Man really knows his projectiles. Rampy goes down. That's elsewhere, but that's now an in for the North Repel and CEO control. Thinking Nade's still inside of reception, though, and he can still slow this down. Nice shot! Merc goes down. Thinking Nade gonna try and rotate, but he has to break the window. He'll fake it out and actually stay inside of reception, trying to continue to slow down TSM on this top floor clear. So far, Thinking Nade has been abundantly successful, but he will be caught in that rotation, I believe. No, Achieved is confused, but he'll hear Canadian and react. Bolo gets Bosco, leaving just Thinking Nade. He will have to ace to win this. He's killed one, downed another. There's the players in sight, though, that he has to now fight. Achieved will be eliminated. That was weird the way that worked out, but he will get the kill. Post plant now as Pojo Man gets it down. Thinking Nade on the retake. Sees a player in tellers, but can't win the fight. Pojo Man bobbing and weaving and landing his shots. TSM take a round and keep themselves in this match.
That's winnable if it's a 1v2 or a 1v3 and you're holding site control as a mute with the shotgun and SMG combo, but that was not the case. Thinking Nade was above with the SMG-11. He had to dead drop. He's going to make a ton of noise. He has to then head into the site, and all while doing that, he's really just going to have an SMG-11 because the shotgun is not a viable option for the 3 people from TSM who are all going to be well out of range of a single shot to kill. So TSM, they win that on the rappel. They flush out Fultz, even though Merc just goes on in. It really ill-advised. Nobody really seemed to be there to help him whatsoever, and Merc nearly loses his head because of it. They end up trading out Fultz, which is great, and Achieved on rappel, then feeds off yet another, swings on in, nearly gets Thinking Nade. So, Space Station, really bad job of holding the CEO office upstairs. Whether it just simply be that they were flushed out by drone work, once again, major credit then would be to the support players, or just not anticipating those fights. Canadian with the UMP was the second victim of Achieved, and it's just, I mean, you get the UMP at close range going up against a buck, you're probably not going to win that fight. So, in that instance, you have TSM with control above. You need a retake from Thinking Nade. That leaves only 2 people from Space Station down below against 4 members of TSM, and in a quick 1-2 succession, TSM collapse on those 2 members. The 2 anchors from SSG have no fighting chance, and it puts Thinking Nade up top. Really, that was won and lost with that second floor control. Really, it was won and lost by the CEO control.
That's how SSG continues to try and make these rounds play out. I mean, it's the same thing with the first round, right? Where SSG won and lost the round based on the top floor. They roamed upstairs. Well, SSG won that roam.
Yeah.
Now they lose the upstairs roam. And, oh, now TSM wins the round. Yeah, it's just a weird... It's SSG putting all their eggs in one basket, and it's a weird kind of defensive bank. It's not bad, it's just different. Really good information being gathered here from SSG on the defense using that heartbeat detector. Canadian going to be calling out quite a lot, I'm sure, over by server. The lack of information or the lack of bodies in a location is just as effective as a call as knowing exactly where the enemy is. So Canadian with a heartbeat detector by a server saying, oh, there's no one over here, that's going to be really good information for the rest of his team. TSM, on the other hand, still trying to clear things out. Lots of Valkyrie cams still well positioned here. Open area is such a wonky defense, and it usually ends up being very spread out the way that this plays out. Ooh, an aggressive play from the castle of Bosco, but he doesn't see his opponent. The IQ is going to be crucial getting those Valkyrie camps.
Valkyrie camera above Bolo has not been spotted yet either. As you head on into Lone Office, this IQ is very vulnerable. I think they finally spot the 1 camera, but there's still another. Bosco had tried to peek out earlier and maybe take that fight with Bolo, but he loses some HP, so somebody from TSM has evidently found him deep inside of the archives. Still IQ gadgetry from Bolo happening, while off-screen Pojo Man finds Fultz. Just as Merc was prime fodder for opening deaths, it's Fultz this time for Space Station as he's flying maybe a little bit too close to the sun. The opening picks right now favoring attackers by a embarrassingly large margin. Bosco refrags. Rampy is there as well. Canadian 2 in this match might be over with only 2 for TSM. 4v2, Kafe next up for us. Will we see it? What can Merc and Geo do together? Diffuser is down, it will need to be picked up, and that's exactly what Merc will do from the body of the Hibana on those marble stairs. Geo watches the hatch, looks for a drop. He knows that if he drops, it's going to make an awful lot of noise. This is an open area defense. For people that have not been following along, these hatches make you exceptionally vulnerable, and there's a member of SSG watching. It's Bosco. Geo beheads him, waiting to see if anybody from SSG can pop on up. Merc planting, Geo covering. It's 3 members of SSG who seem none the wiser. Geo's position is given away, and there goes Rampy. So this round might not be over. Not yet. There's a ping! Merc gets traded out, so it's Geo in a 1v1 against Thinking Nade. Is he going to be able to get him? Lots of damage being done through the cubicles as Geo scrambles to get out of that site as best as he can. Thinking Nade knows the diffuser is down. Will he try to draw out Geo? Yes, he will. Attempting the counter defuse. Geo goes on in. He manages to shake Thinking Nade off of it, but they will dance as best they can. Is there still a C4 for Thinking Nade? Hatch from above. There goes the C4. It'll miss. Time running out. You've only got 5 seconds, Thinking Nade. Geo just needs to hang on. He knows it. This will have to be stuck by Thinking Nade, but Geo will drop. He sees the head, and he finishes him off. That will not be it for this matchup. TSM manages to take a 4v2 and make it a 0v2, and then a 0v1. Really impeccable play there by Geo, and TSM will now take a second round in a row. With TSM, they cannot relinquish the momentum that they had before the side swap.
Geo certainly put that round on his shoulders and carried it all the way through. He not only got the entry kills, he got the cover kills as well. And he managed to cover that post plant until the very end. A beautiful play there from Geo. Really, SSG suffering from lack of coverage on the actual bomb site. SSG has been heavily invested in the roam every single one of their defensive rounds, and it hasn't been working out very well in these last 2 rounds. It worked excellent for SSG in the very first. Because they're so invested in their roam, they are not holding on to their site as well as they could otherwise. And if they were playing a more standard default way of any of these bomb sites being held, SSG wouldn't be suffering from these constant diffuser plants. These last 2 rounds, TSM has gotten that diffuser plant down and managed to win off of it. And that's crucial. SSG needs some kind of tool to hold onto the site, or they need a player to more proficiently hold onto the site. Typically speaking, in the past, we haven't highlighted this yet, and I'll take a moment to do so. In the past, the player, or operator, I guess I should say, for SSG that does hold that site proficiently, allowing the rest of SSG to roam as much as they want, is Maestro. You got 2 Evil Eyes, and you got the Alda. You as a solo player, whoever it may be who's bringing that Maestro, can just so easily hold on to the entirety of the site by yourself. You don't need assistance necessarily, maybe 1 other person, but that means there's still 3 to roam. And who's banned right now? Well, it's Maestro.
Yep.
TSM is going to keep banning Maestro because they are aware of that problem.
Well, for SSG, your tellers and your open area defenses did not go very well. CEO was an option. I am a little surprised that SSG did not bother on that top floor site, as it tends to be one of the preferred sites, but no. Instead, it'll be back downstairs to lockers as it's opened up, CCTV lockers. This is arguably the most defendable site on this map, so if SSG is going to win it, it's going to need to be here. Yet still SSG has got quite a number of people that are off-site. One of which is Canadian, who is now going to be under fire. He's inside of the elevator. He will not be able to get droned due to the ERC, which is active. It'll have to recharge, but you can see how many different members of TSM are trying to drone him out. And 3 of TSM are stacked up by the double doorway. Pojoman might not be aware of this position. A couple gunshots. Canadian knows he can't swing out. If somebody from SSG were to move up to the main stairs, this could be an easy play from Space Station to get 2 members of TSM who don't seem to know. Pojoman gets taken out. Almost. Mark II, there it is. Canadian inside of the elevator. He's got the diffuser. He's trapped, so Achieved will be able to get rid of him. There goes a frag grenade. Canadian is doomed. He knows it. He's going to try to survive, taking quite a bit of damage. But he's not dead just yet. He won't be able to win the fight against Achieved, but Bosco beats Geo, and now SSG finds themselves with that same numbers advantage. Bolo very close to being inside of sight. There he is, but he gets taken out by Foltz, and this is all over but the crying as Kafe looks very certain now, far much more than the previous round. Achieved in a 1v3, and he won't be able to get past the Mute, who's playing by the elevator, and he'll be thinking Nade to end map number 2, and we are going to need map 3 of this best of 3. Kafe awaits us.
So, of course, I don't think it's really going to be called into question by anybody that is going to be down to Canadian playing inside of the elevator. Also, SSG failing to check for that elevator. No flashes, no lifeline, no hard peek. Nobody actually taking the effort to, oh, hey, maybe there's someone in the elevator. I guess they assumed that it was clear based on that one drone peeking its head in. But again, with the ERC being active, you really can't know. And that is a prompt to slow down your clear and to think about what you're doing. Nobody thought about the potential player inside of elevator. So, well played to Canadian.
Why does Rampy always look lost?
He looks really confused.
He just looks lost all the time.
It's like, what's going on, guys? What happened? Oh, you won. We won, Rampy.
Where am I?
We won. We won. We're going to the third map.
What do you mean it's over? Rampy had a very strong start on attack. He, alongside Bosco, were exceptional at getting those opening picks. They won most of their opening duels, and SSG led the way on attack, just as TSM did on their attack. Both of these teams were far more effective on the clear than they were on their roam. However, Rampy cooled off in the second half. The good thing for SSG is that Thinking Nade stayed consistent, and he actually top fragged despite being on the bottom of the scoreboard, with Canadian coming in a close second. And Canadian, who actually had, I believe, the worst stats on the team yesterday, has had the best stats and has top fragged almost both games.
Oh man, that moment right there. He actually probably had enough ammunition, to be honest, to get that. He couldn't secure it before the timer ran out.
Yeah.
The plant went down.
Very, very close. This was a real showstopper on Bank. 7-3 and 7-3 are what we're looking at. These have not been particularly close, but they have been hard-fought rounds. I wonder what we're going to see on Kafe. It's Space Station's most banned map over the last couple months. It is a map that we just witnessed TSM play yesterday and narrowly lost to Rogue on, despite it being a very strong map for Rogue. And Kafe and Villa both seem to be very, very proficient maps for TSM, or rather maps that they are very proficient on. So I would say in terms of the map ban, I'm happy if I'm TSM with what I'm looking at. But SSG now, they won map number 2. They've got the momentum. They're the team that is not going to be coming in with frustration in their mind. They're not going to be worried about, you know, possibly choking the lead because they've just been able to equalize. And that's big mentally for a lot of teams, especially a young team like Space Station.
We'll see how it all plays out when we get to map number 3, but for now, we need to give these players, of course, a little bit of a breather, so they'll have a little break while we wait to get things going again. In the meantime, we can talk about what we expect, what we've seen throughout this match. It has been a really interesting one, but the most notable thing for me is the fact that both of these teams have dominantly won their maps. So where we had TSM get the 7-3 over SSG in map number 1, it was a 7-2 over TSM in map number 2. So, yes. And that's pretty one-sided no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, that's what I said. Neither of these maps have been real slogs. You know, you turn and you look at Dark Zero versus FaZe Clan that we ended the day, you and I ended the day with yesterday.
This went on
and it was
3.5 hours?
Every single, yeah, it was just over 3.5 hours. And almost every single map, it was close. And a lot of the rounds were also very close. So even though a round would be lost, it would still be pretty tight. The one thing that I will say about this matchup is that there have been a couple rounds that have been real blowouts. You know, you look at TSM on Consulate, you look at a couple rounds from SSG on Bank, very narrowly close to flawless rounds. But there were still a couple rounds that could have gone either way. On Consulate, it could have been even more lopsided. Remember Canadian's clutch. You look at TSM, Geo's clutch on that CEO defuse that went down. These could have been even greater blowouts, Michael. So what are we going to see on Kafe? Are we going to see a tight matchup in which these teams are extremely close to each other? Are we going to see a matchup that, just like this, is very, very one-sided?
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say when it comes to both maps on Kafe in recent histories, at least, like the last few months or so. TSM played Rogue yesterday, actually, and they lost on Kafe. Rogue beat them 7-2. Now, TSM claims that was because they were not prepared for the matchup. They needed time to warm up, so fair enough. That's fine. If you take a look at SSG's record in the last few months, it's pretty much the same thing. Not a lot to talk about. 4 times played, 2 times won, 1 time tied, 1 time lost. So it's kind of been, there's more, I guess, for Space Station, but less recently.
Yeah.
Those are all Pro League and in the Challenger, sorry, not the Challenger, but the qualifiers for this actual event. Even if you look far enough back at OGA versus Liquid. So there's not a whole lot to say about both these teams when it comes to Kafe. We know that TSM lost on it recently, yesterday, but that, pinch of salt on that one because they also won that best of 3. And again, the claim is that they were not warmed up. Another thing to keep in mind is having played the map recently, TSM is a little bit more fresh in their heads when it comes to Kafe, to an extent.
Right, but the matchup yesterday against Rogue, TSM got absolutely buried, 7-2.
They did.
Rogue
They did.
crushed them. Rogue dominated. Rogue won every single opening duel. TSM got 1 diffuser off. That was it. And every single round, it was aces or it was Rise being able to take advantage of TSM not really droning. We saw Merc on Bank. He flew in blind a couple of those rounds with very limited intel, very limited information, and he almost got punished for it. So with all of this speculation, Michael, what is going to happen as we get ready for the final match between these two teams on Kafe? One of them will be going out of their group and representing North America in the quarterfinals. Will it be TSM or will it be Space Station? We'll get Kafe underway.
So the real thing this is going to hinge on is, will TSM play as poorly as they did against Rogue on Kafe now? Because you're right, and this is the thing that, in my opinion, gives weight to the claim of, we weren't ready. TSM played really poorly against Rogue on Kafe. Like, when we're talking like massive glaring issues. And they haven't been playing poorly per se over these last 2 maps. So, I think SSG has just been winning, and not really on TSM necessarily. More SSG playing better on Bank.
Yeah.
If both of these teams show up to play on Kafe now, then we can anticipate a pretty close and interesting matchup. Now, ban phase done. It's Thatcher and Thermite, so that'll be a really interesting heart destruction situation, and is going to make this one of the most defensive-sided setups I've ever seen. And what do I mean by that? Well, Kafe, one of the most defender-sided maps in Pro League, or in competitive Rainbow Six, I should say, happens to be, like I said, defender-sided. And when you add a Thatcher and a Thermite ban on top of that, it becomes even more defender-sided. So Space Station, starting on defense, are going to be in the driver's seat. It's effectively their half to lose. Every single round that SSG lets slip through their fingers on the defensive half is likely to, stack against them. If it's a 2 rounds for the first half for TSM, TSM's happy. They're fine. They can win that. No problem. If it's 1 round won from TSM, it's salvageable. If no rounds won for TSM in the first half, SSG should be able to just lock it out there.
So the bans from TSM are the exact same as yesterday. Against Rogue, Rogue instead banned Capitao and Mira. Now, you ban a Thatcher, and why do you do that? Well, it's so that you can play operators like Mute, like Kaid, like Bandit, Breach Denial, but also Mute, as well as obviously Mozzie, because you want to be able to use and abuse those 2 operators. And Space Station is very much a game, or is very much a team that loves that Mute Mozzie mesh, especially on certain maps, oftentimes Clubhouse. Now, from what we see, it's not going to come out at all. Why? Because the Thermite ban prompted a Kaid ban, because I think they just realized how much of a mess it would be with both a Thatcher and a Thermite removed from play. TSM obviously don't like Thermite and Goyo on this map. They removed them from Rogue. They were very clearly not necessarily team-specific counter bans, because there's obviously a very different map pool, or rather an operator pool, as I try to get my thoughts composed, for Space Station in comparison to Rogue.
Space Station in comparison to Rogue?
Yes, I was saying that the way that Space Station plays operators versus the way that Rogue plays operators. I was saying that...
Here, give her.
What'd you hear? What did you hear? I was saying that TSM banned the Thermite and the Goyo, not because of Rogue, because they clearly banned them again against TSM, and TSM has a different operator pool. Yes, that was my point.
Okay.
So,
Prepping the castle window there is Fultz. So it takes 12 punches to break that castle window, or castle barricade, whether it be a window or a door, and so you will punch it 11 times. That way, if you punch it once, it breaks, but it still stops the projectiles and all that.
referred to as 11 hitting.
Oh. Or prepping.
Or prepping.
Yeah.
I just hear 11 hit a lot in NA.
Ah.
Of whom we are likely watching.
We're all watching NA.
Well, are watching this because it's too North American.
Everyone's NA, yeah.
Yeah.
Merc is probing the site.
He's almost in sight already.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's anyone actually to hold this. The drone will actually call that out. There's a relatively light hold in the A-bomb site. There's a castle barricade to stop the push. But there's a lot of rush potential here from TSM. I wonder if they're gonna, yeah, they might seize upon it. We'll open up the door, double drone just to be sure. Assess the angles and maybe go for play. It looks like a trap from SSG.
Yes, it very much is. Look at how far back SSG is playing, especially with Rampy over inside of Kochek.
It's a very deliberate setup here from Space Station.
Yes, Space Station is inviting and welcoming TSM on into the site. And right now, whether or not TSM will read into this is the question. Have they bothered to drone out the other side of Kafe? Have they droned out the east side and the eastern portion where two different members of SSG are?
Wall open now. Buck will open it fully. Good use of the Maverick there to trick the wall open. If you don't know, you can cut out the bottom and top of a reinforcement wall and it'll just fall away, and you can soft destruct it. That's exactly what TSM is going to do, and they do that because Thermite is banned. TSM banned Thermite. That's their choice. They were ready for it.
There's a castle barricade that's going to be inside of Kochek, and Fultz is playing in there. He will engage with the Zofia Bolo. Two very hot hands and great aimers, but it's going to be Canadian coming to the aid of his teammate. Down goes Bolo, opening pick for Space Station to start this off. Not exactly detrimental, but where was the Zofia going to go? That's the real question, especially since most of the push was coming from a different direction from TSM. They've managed to open up that bakery wall. They've managed to walk into prep room. It looked like Merc was going to be the first one on in, but SSG just continues to fall back, and I think that TSM is a little bit wary of this, but Pojo going for the plant. Bosco is really close by, all under the noses. This might be successful, and it will be. So TSM gets away with murder as they lose two other members of their team. Pojo and Geo at a 2v5. That becomes a 2v4 and a 1v4, with Geo sitting outside of the site. In bakery, counter-defusing from Canadian. You can hear the sound. If Geo goes to pop on in, he almost takes out the Valkyrie. Canadian actually does get down, but it's all for naught. Geo will drag one body with him, but that'll be it. Somebody else from Space Station is on deck to defuse, and Canadian gets picked back up. Round number one will go in favor of Space Station.
Interesting round that. I'd say Canadian's contributions are most notable. He managed to get the initial kill. The most important thing, though, for Canadian is that he alleviated the pressure that TSM was applying to the main lobby. If that player outside of the main door had been able to actually apply more pressure by persisting, denying the coat check angle to the defense, then the attack into the site would have been much more successful. Canadian also managed to get the player who was covering that diffuser plant. That's just really good, impactful frags there from Canadian. The information also was clearly abundant from SSG. They obviously had Valkyrie cams in the site. Based on the way that they were set up and the way that they were playing, SSG set up a trap strategy centered around the kitchen leading from bakery. So the solution there for TSM is likely to bring an IQ or go somewhere else. Try to attack from a different angle. Whatever the case be, we know that that bakery take is going to be really difficult. I think IQ is probably the fix, the easiest one, because the amount of information that SSG had on that attack, there's no way it wasn't a Valkyrie cam in the site. Not in my mind. I love that you can shoot those now.
IQ is a staple of TSM as well. As Bolo will run that operator on many different maps, so it's not like they are uncomfortable with bringing her out if they need to. Will this be a response to SSG? Well, in this case, SSG has completely blown up that composition and run with a variety of different operators as it's a bar/cocktail defense up top. Castle will be an incredibly powerful operator for all of SSG's defense. Expect to see him through most of Kafe.
So it's going to be a clear into piano. Standard stuff here on the top floor. This site is typically attacked through the drop downs on the roof. It's been decent time management here from TSM so far. Nothing exceptional, nothing bad. They're trying to deal with the player over by the stage. Mute Jammer's assisting Canadian and persisting in this position. He will spot his enemy, but lose the fight. Bolo coming out on top there, landing the headshot. Really losing 1 bullet's worth of HP. Rampy with the run out though will get the refrag. That's a beautiful play there from Rampy as he comes out from Bakery. Nobody on TSM in a position to shut that down. So the SSG do not let TSM run away with the manpower advantage. Bolo will be placed on that drone. Since he's dead, that's his main contribution now is information, and he'll watch that flank so it doesn't happen again.
It's probably the best operator for you to lose is that Castle as well, so...
Yep, and one of the worst would be the Zofia.
Yes, so the trade definitely favoring SSG here, but hard to trade that one off as Rampy is eliminated on Repel by the Buck.
You notice how aggressively SSG are playing. They're at Pixel and in Cigar with only 3 people left. That's pretty crazy. That means there's only one anchor that's false. Now, notably, it's the Maestro who is unbanned this time. SSG will use that to great effect, I expect. Thinking nade will take down Merc. He needed that kill after the nade came in to eliminate Bosco, who was playing in Cigar. Thinking in Fultz now in the 2v3. A whole minute, though, for TSM to contemplate their decisions.
How many drones do they have active? Geo obviously is 0. There's only 3 on the board. Pojo controls 2 of them. Whether Bolo and Merc have any positioned in places to take advantage of is the real question. There are mute jammers as well that could possibly be hindering these because when your drone gets jammed, it still shows up the exact same.
We also know that the achieved drone is downstairs, so it's not going to be very useful in the actual site take.
Fultz is so formidable with this Alda. He's going to chew through one member of TSM. Drop them, has not been able to capitalize, but then he gets picked apart. Pojo will get picked back up. Diffuser's there as well. But thinking he tosses out that C4, he pulls just a little bit too early. He sees the Buck, does quite a bit of damage. He's going to need to reload, doesn't do so in time, loses it out to the other SMG-11 in the hands of the Sledge, and back and forth we go. The second round to TSM.
Big win there for TSM. They got the lead-off kill, thanks to Bolo, on stage inside of Piano. And then following that, TSM managed to use the angle play between the Repel and the drop-downs to get at least, I think, 3 kills over by Piano, Cigar, and Pixel Spot. If I'm not mistaken. No, not Piano, Bar, and Pixel Spot. It was just Piano and Bar, actually. So, or Piano and Cigar, rather. And then after those 3 kills came out, it was down to just the 2 anchors for SSG. And, well, in the 3v2, it favored TSM. TSM played very cautiously. And as they aggressed through the white hallway, they took no risks. And they managed to solidify their lead and get that win. SSG now will avoid the top 4 and instead go to Reading. Reading Dining is a typical third site for most teams.
Space Station could have gone back there, but this is not the way that Space Station's been playing it. You know, you look at their defense on Bank, and, well, they lose and they change it up. You look at their defense on Consulate, and they never played a site twice in a row. I wonder if there's some strategy behind that. I wonder if they deliberately go out of their way to play another site because they want to keep teams on their toes. It's something worth talking to Lycan about at some point.
It's possible. I think, again, I discussed this before we got to the map. It's when you have a map that is clearly less played, or you're known to be less proficient on that map, it does work to your advantage when you practice it extensively leading into an event like the Invitational. Because other teams will try and practice around your least favorite maps, and they'll try to counter you.
Quick work of those hatches from above. His second floor will be the site for TSM to enter, providing that nobody from SSG is up there, and the only one seems to be Rampy. Well, I speak too soon. Canadian is actually down in the bottom right as well. He's playing by Lumber. Rampy's holding the angle for Bolo. If he peeks, this could be a battle to the death between these two, but there's no active engagement that happens. Any soft destruction inside a piano or cigar will alert Space Station to TSM's presence, but the burning of the ADSs is probably a dead giveaway, and there's a pinch from TSM bound to happen, as you've got an entry over from Red Stairs, and then you've also got repel play that is about to happen from Achieved. But there's a toxic canister. Does a little bit of damage to Rampy, who manages to move out of the way. A bit of a mistake from Canadian there. And the Jaeger will head back in the same location.
TSM very slow on this top clear. There's only a minute 15 left for the clear to come out fully. This is a middle floor defense, so you need to be more effective or efficient than this. So a lot of that soft destruction that could be used on the floors is getting used on this wall.
There's a mirror window up as well that Rampy is playing off of, which is what is proving to be so difficult to overcome. And I would imagine that there's more than just that single mute jammer there too. Bolo will creep on up. There is a possible exploit that could happen here, but he is perfectly prone level. Rampy might not see him behind that bar. 3 members of TSM have headed down to the floor below. Canadian misses shots on that shotgun. Look at how much damage he did to Merc. Virtually 0. Bosco slaps down Pojo Man down below, as both members of SSG on that top floor are removed from action. Now Fultz is gone as well. TSM with a very large upper hand in this round, even though Achieved is on such low HP. So now Bosco will rotate on up. This cannot be a top floor retake from SSG. No, it is not. Thinking Nade down below, he's the only one on site, as everybody else on SSG are dead. Waiting for somebody to go for the plan as Pojo is down, diffuser's in the hands of Geo. Return to the site from Bosco. Thinking Nade is there, and it's now very winnable. And they'll have to confront a mirror window at the same process. There's another for Bosco, and it's Merc lying prone on the ground with no time. Somehow manages to win this. Space Station, my goodness. I don't understand how they just managed to do that, as TSM had everything going for them, and then they drop, and then they struggle to put everything together, as they'd wasted all of that time and all that soft destruction on the top floor, and then cannot do anything with it on the second floor at all.
That was a shocking round. Shocking is a good word for that. So I made note earlier in the round about how Achieved had used much of his skeleton key to open up a wall instead of opening up the floor. And he could have applied a lot of vertical pressure to the anchors. And the reason he did that is because he realized, oh, there's only a minute left in the round. We're not going to be able to use vertical pressure. We have to clear out the roamers because we need to prevent them from stopping us planting from above. But there's no way we're going to be able to actually open up from above. So, okay, fair enough to Achieve. But then that's just an answer. That means there's another problem. And the other problem is that you're too slow on your top floor clear on a raiding defense. SSG was really deliberate in holding the top floor continuously. Many teams will fall back at a minute 30. And TSM, on the other hand, also very deliberate in how slow they took the top floor. Maybe they were expecting the fallback at a minute 30, as many teams will do. But that didn't happen. Because that didn't happen, TSM struggled to clear upstairs, and they got it done. And they actually ended with a strongman advantage, a 4 versus 2, after the top floor clear was done. And you don't expect that to turn into a win for the 2, but because of how limited time was, TSM felt rushed. They started working their way into bottlenecks, and Space Station, the last 2 players, they were ready. It's just weird the way that played out.
Yes,
so awkward.
It was, I mean, you could even hear it in my casting where my brain was like, this does not make sense. How words do they form?
Sometimes that happens where you're watching the pacing of a round, and you're like, what?
You're just like, I don't, and like, what is happening? And it's
And then you have a little bit of a just
Our job to make sense of it, so.
I guess so.
In pursuit from above, achieved will drop, and in Cigar there is a lone ping, but you can see the hatch opened up, and somebody from SSG has been able to sneak away. Like bandits in the night, Canadian and Thinking Nade will reposition, and this is a very deep eastern hold yet again that we see, or southern hold rather, depending on the orientation of the compass, down below. So Space Station will essentially be baiting TSM in, but here's how TSM is doing things differently. Instead of attacking from that front bakery and taking control of prep area, TSM instead are clearing from the top down and will likely begin their push over towards Brown Stairs and delivery with one member or two situated near the Red Stairs or Bakery. So it's a very wide spread for TSM, and honestly, the right call. They've adapted very well to what they saw out of SSG on that very first attack on the site.
Double Claymore. So if you vault over the rail, you get Claymored. If you come up the stairs, you get Claymored. You'll have to shoot both of them, no matter what. That's interesting to set up. Or maybe I saw it wrong, I don't know. It's hard to tell because of the red carpet. Anyway, TSM have control of those top 2 floors, and they're going to start opening up quite a lot. This is what Achieve wanted to do in the last round, but couldn't because of the limited time. He now has time to go for it this time.
Canadian C4 gets expended a little bit too early, and that leaves absolutely zero plant denial with the exception of the Maestro cameras. Unless you consider Thinking Nade's goo mines to be plant denial, which I guess they can be, but not quite in the same sense that I think most people are thinking. Speaking of Thinking Nade, well, he's going to launch all the way over towards coat check. Geo has been downed. Bolo takes a bunch of damage. Who'll win the fight between Merc and Rampy? Rampy is just better with 2 kills. Canadian super shorty in hand. He gets punished by Achieved, but TSM will lick their wounds. That's a rough spot to be in. Bolo removes Bosco's head from his body. Not a lot of time. Achieved will need to go for the plant. It will be really heavy that Bolo just simply tries to stop SSG from getting in. Those proximity concussions will not find their targets. Vaulted from the Legion, traded off, and there you go. SSG will take them all out, and Fultz, a man of good taste and much class, will allow Rampy, who got that very final kill, to also disable the diffuser.
All right, so that round, once again, highlighting the lack of anchor play from SSG, but also highlighting that that's not a flaw for them. That is not an issue. They are very capable of winning with a collapse. Once again, TSM find themselves in the bomb site in a man disadvantage. How frequently is that happening? It seems like we see that many of these at TSM attack rounds where they will be in sight, ready to plant, but there's still 3 or 4 SSG players encircling them, ready to collapse and deny that round to TSM, and that's exactly what happened. Too many angles there for Bolo to cover. He did the best he could. Stun on the rotation to make sure he didn't have to worry about that for a few seconds. He got the player who would have denied the plant vaulting over the wall there, and then the Maestro from prep finishes him off. No chance for Bolo. Nice try, but in a 1v3 effectively, he just couldn't make it happen, as SSG are too well coordinated, able to collapse all at once. Now the time wasn't that bad for SSG, I guess. They've been managing to delay TSM quite a lot. The biggest thing there is that, I mean, while it was one of TSM's more efficient attacks, it's still TSM up against a wall, and they have to go for a plant. They must. And that just keeps happening over and over and over again. So good delay from the roamers at SSG, as they've been doing for the majority of these rounds. I mean, we talked about how this is going to be the type of match, or map rather, I guess, that is defender-sided. And it certainly is. It's proven to be. TSM's gotten one of the rounds that they need in order to be in a decent place. If TSM can get one more round out of these remaining 2 in the first half, great. Fantastic. TSM can do, they could do so much more in the second half because of that. But if it's just the one, it'll be really difficult to salvage for TSM.
Yeah, I was going to make note. I mean, this is Kafe. This is still one of the most defender-sided maps in the map pool. It Villa, and Clubhouse tend to be the big 3. In terms of, you're playing on attack. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a surprise to see Space Station go up 3-1, and some of these have been decently close, but I mean, Space Station have looked like the better team through most rounds. We're not that far in.
I mean,
a lot of things can change.
TSM have come really close, though. Like you said,
Right.
It's been a intense one. They're better than they were when they were playing against Rogue.
So, a common pattern, though, if we look at what's happening in this round, and in particular the site, is that Space Station doesn't like to play the most commonly played sites on half of these maps. Cocktail is by far and away the most played map. Hello and good night. That's a nice nitro cell from Fultz. On to Achieved. His Canadian already been taken off. Once again, the Castle is the opening pick, so it's technically TSM winning the duel. Though I wouldn't really call what happened with that C4 much of a duel, so it would have had to rephrase that if it had been SSG. That was just better. But this is a reading defense. So my point is that Space Station does not like to go to the most played sites on a wide variety of these maps. I mean, they just played Bank with only going to CEO 0 times.
Yeah, mining is a weird site for a lot of teams because it extends itself over to the west, and no other bomb site extends itself so far west and doesn't have, you know, a wall between you and the enemy.
Yeah.
So often, you can take piano control and open up above train, as TSM are doing right now, and then just deny any retake of mining for the defense. Merc's got his second kill there. That's big.
It's a really hard spot for Fultz, as he will have to emerge from that train car with the roof above him being slightly exposed. A greasy angle from Rampies. He's got a punch hole through what appears to be the turned over bookcase. I don't know how nobody wins that fight much sooner, as Fultz does minimal damage to Bolo above, and now the job of Rampy and Thinking Nade is all but impossible. But Thinking Nade is down below. There's a C4. Time it well. Merc is next one up. Where is Rampy, though? That's the real question mark. Can he catch the Zofia from the back? Through the wall, reading really well. Rampy's there with another, and SSG will win yet again by the skin of their teeth. My goodness, this Space Station final 20 seconds of play has been almost flawless the last couple rounds. And Rampy with a beautiful call. My. Timeout from TSM, and I think that's the right time to take it.
Absolutely. There was about 2-3 seconds after Rampy killed that planter where the player who was covering Rampy could have picked up the diffuser and planted himself, but it just didn't happen. Some slow going there. Now Bagel's going to try and talk to his team and instill some confidence, dish out some plans, provide them with the answer, try and enlighten the squad, because TSM is looking a little bit lost. Honestly, the last round was going fairly well for TSM. They managed to recover the diffuser after the C4 went down pretty quickly. They started going for that plant, had some time to spare, but just not enough in the end. Rampy really shined on SSG, where he managed to get that kill through the wall. I don't think he had information on the planter. He just sprayed the wall. He thought, oh, it's probably planting in that corner. And he was right. So maybe a less predictable plant spot is the answer in the future for TSM. But, I mean, that's a little thing. And as you said, SSG in the last 20 seconds of most of these rounds have been pretty much flawless. That's the main takeaway here.
Yes.
Whenever it comes down to the dead end of a round, SSG is just above and beyond TSM.
SSG and TSM, those are two acronyms, but we have to remember another when talking about SSG over the last couple rounds, and it's ABC, always be closing. And they have closed out those last couple rounds very, very well done. We'll get back into the game now, as it's final defense for Space Station. You mentioned a 4-2 split for TSM is basically where they want to find themselves and where most teams want to find themselves.
It's okay. Yeah.
A 5-1 here from SSG puts so much pressure on TSM to do the exact same, because short of that, and Space Station wins the whole thing.
Yeah. 4-2, okay. 5-1, basically.
This is going to be yet another second floor defense, but because mining was won by Space Station, it's going to be over to reading. That gives you this for Space Station's cycle. Kitchen to cocktail to reading to kitchen to mining to reading. Bar cocktail above and kitchen down below have been only played half of the times, and it's not because they're necessarily being won. I mean, they have. Kitchen was won both times. You can't go there again. Cocktail was never won and was not played even one more time. So obviously, like I said, SSG really likes playing these offsites and making it work, and I think a lot of credit honestly has to go to their coach and to the abilities that these players have, because as good of a coach as Lycan may be, he is not alone able to win rounds on unpredictable maps or unpredictable sites, etc.
Yeah, he helps them set out the plan, but the execution is all on the players.
This is the very same setup that SSG had before with the Mira, with the Castle, with Rampy playing as Jaeger, and TSM have taken a minute and have already been able to dismantle a lot of the soft walls that are leading on in because they know exactly how to deal with it. They also just took a timeout, so I think they were expecting it, as the X-Kairos will open up a tiny portion of the wall. There goes an Ash Charge 2 to take out the barbed wire, which will clear the way for Canadian to push up. He tosses out a Toxic Canister, but it looks like it got shot by Merc, and another will go off.
This is a whole 40 seconds faster on the attack from TSM than the last time we were here.
Very, very well played by TSM. And they are making no mistake about how they want to attack the site. The real question is going to be, are they able to flush somebody out? There's the logic bomb. Canadian has the barrel of the shotgun as he lies prone on lumber, watching the top of White Stairs and the end of White Hallway. And Canadian will lose the fight to Merc. Merc doesn't even take a single point of damage. There's one for Pojo Man 2. And TSM are being absolutely brutal and so methodical in how they're taking this. They know where every single member of SSG is, and they are beautifully counter-stratting this setup that seemed to get under the skin of TSM. Bosco had hesitated to get up top before, but now he's up there. He sees the buck, but that's it for the round. TSM nearly flawless were it not for Bosco. That's how you take a timeout and rally your teammates. We'll switch sides, but TSM, they needed that round really badly, and Space Station had no hope of hanging on.
Big round there for TSM. They needed that, as you said. And now, switching over to defense, TSM is actually in a pretty comfortable spot. It's not a, oh, we're going to win, ha ha ha, sort of spot. That would be 3-3. 3-3, TSM would be so ecstatic about their position, but not the case. Still could go either way, but right now, SSG is the one who are going to be feeling the pressure. They need to win 2 attacking rounds the same way TSM did, and that is a tall order on a map like Kafe, especially with the bans we have right now. The operators being picked here are very different. We'll have IQ being brought from SSG, which is going to well and soundly counter the Echo and Valkyrie being brought from TSM side of things. Not just the Valkyrie, but honestly, every single one of these operators will feel some pain from that IQ's presence, especially if it's a top floor clear. You're going to be able to shoot the batteries, the Jaeger ADSs, the Mossy Pests from above. It'll be really effective use if Bosco can get himself to that position and wreak that havoc. It's a kitchen defense to begin. This is the same site that we actually saw SSG start on in the first half. Often teams like to start on sites like this to try and upset the operator selection. In this case, you're going to start on kitchen because of the operators that are available. It's Thatcher and Thermite banned. Yeah, you're going to start on kitchen. No Maverick being brought from SSG, which means they are not going to be able to trick the walls open. SSG will rely on unbandited walls or on, I guess, pushing through bottlenecks. That's pretty much all SSG can do, because those bandit batteries are not going to be countered unless SSG clears from above. That'll take a considerable amount of time, and at that point, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to hard destruct the wall open and then play around that breach. So you have to really manage this whole round on time if you're SSG.
It's one thing I think we haven't really spent an awful lot talking about is how that Thatcher Thermite ban really impacts the attack, and how the fact that a 4-2 on Kafe under normal circumstances is pretty good, but it might actually be even better given the fact that it's such a significant challenge when you are confronted with no Thatcher and no Thermites. So.
IQ already working out pretty well. Getting some of those pests upstairs that were meant to slow down the roam clear. I don't think Space Station was slowed down at all. About a minute for total dominance on the top floor. That's really, really efficient roam clear. Chief was going to throw a C4. He heard an enemy, but he decided not to. He'll save it, keep it in the pocket. Second stun comes out here, and Merc is the one to hit that one. He'll fall back. The double roam effectively pushed away, thanks to the drone work and the lifeline.
Actually, looked like it might have hit both of them. That could have been...
The first one hit one of them, and the second one might have hit both, yeah. But it'll scare them both off, that's for sure.
This is very fast from SSG. This is setting a very similar pace to what we saw from TSM on their final attacking round, and you want to have this kind of moxie and bravado to start things off, because Space Station will be going for the throat, and even one round right here, if they manage to start things off on attack with a victory, then you set an awful lot of pressure on TSM for the remainder of this match with how close you will be to match point. So
TSM could still make that happen too, mind you. They have gone for the top floor clear route, which means that Bosco is just going to pay off so much on that IQ. He's going to clear out effectively every enemy gadget.
Did we just see a yokai or a pre-placed nitro cell get taken out from above? And because of that, now that's a little piece that TSM will no longer have available to them. Final stretch for round number 7, and an obviously very pivotal round. I think it'll determine the pacing of whether or not these two teams will continue to close that gap and go back and forth and give us a nail-biter to the finish, or if we will end up with Space Station just breaking it wide open, as they intend to do on this bakery wall. But look at how few moments are left in this matchup. TSM can burst on fourth. They'll start things off with an opening pick. C4 from them does nothing. Another from Bolo. He's been great. The Hibana prone. There'll be one from Pojo Man and achieved. It's all TSM, actually. My, they dominate the kill feed. SSG funnels in to their death.
Big win there for TSM, and a nice solid hold of the kitchen. They managed to push themselves ever closer to an even round count. Still 4-3 advantage SSG, but you can see it on SSG's faces. That's a lot of pressure. And again, the nature of that round win was very similar to the round wins that SSG were getting in the first half. It came down to the dying seconds. Now here's the tricky thing about Kafe. You have to spend so much time clearing out those top 2 floors, which is what SSG did. You start opening up using your IQ and your Hibana, and exactly what I was saying was going to happen is like if you go upstairs, you clear out those 2 floors. No, even if you're efficient, and SSG was very efficient on those upstairs rows. Even if you're efficient, you're still only going to be able to get rid of the gadgets and then barely rotate a Hibana over to Bakery to open up the wall. You're not going to have enough time to utilize that breach. SSG didn't have enough time to utilize the breach. They were down to 15 seconds when they started pushing it. I mean, all TSM needs to do then is just not mess it up. That's it. It's the same thing that SSG did. TSM did it here. If TSM continues to not mess it up, they should be able to just stack these wins until they get an actual map win. I mean, it's very likely that is what's going to happen here.
This is monstrosity of a defensive setup that we see right
really
now.
Weird,
This is something where Pojo and I actually shared a plane ride back from USN late last year. And he said to me, he goes, well, I was just casually talking to him and I said, you know, you had Timsy on the squad, you couldn't play. What did that change? How did that differ? And he goes, well, we didn't bring out the stupid stuff. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, we're going to get real dumb at Six Invitational. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, watch out for a couple maps. He goes, you're going to see some real stupid stuff. I don't know if this is some of the stupid stuff he was talking about, but I have not seen a setup quite like this in an awful long time. Now, Geo is going to be sitting with the 2 panels reinforced behind him. There are double rotate holes just above him that will have a line of sight while also providing the ability to rotate and vault in and out to hold A. There's also a soft wall where if somebody were to plant, you can very easily die next to the A bomb site right there next to the panel and the castle barricade. This is actually very smart from TSM, and I don't know if SSG is going to be aware of how to crack this at all. I sense a great video from either Emzo or Reaper coming out on this one, but
probably. It's a really interesting setup. And ooh, that's bad timing there for both Foltz and Merc, who just sprinting past each other. Foltz is quicker on the draw.
Might be a little bit less damage than before, but that carbine still packs a wallop, and you can see that Foltz loses nearly half of his HP, but he still managed to get the pick for SSG. Now, I don't know if Merc rotated on a call or if it was just him assuming that SSG was farther back, but we could see, and he should have known with this long into the round, that there is going to be full West control of the top of Kafe. Cigar and Piano are going to be the attackers at this point. It sets his team at a bit of a disadvantage, but it's nothing that TSM can't handle, and especially with the setup, they are obviously very prepared to battle back. Geo will start it off, but then Pojo is gone to Rampy, so if you trade out, Space Station holds that advantage for the rest of the round.
This has been one of the quickest attacks we've seen so far on Kafe. There's still 40 seconds left for SSG to execute here. This nade is likely to land and get the kill onto Achieved. It will. There you go. SSG now have a significant man advantage, 4-2. Bolo's trying to work his way back into the round. He'll get air jabbed on his way up the white stairs. His position well known to the enemy, and the cross is covered, but he won't die. And just to get his way back to the site. Geo has a lot on his shoulders. Is he the only one who is going to be able to deny a plant right now? Reminder, this is mining. Mark's coming out into the red hallway. That one reinforcement actually working for Geo. He sees the planter and lands the shot. That's the third kill for Geo. It's all on Rampy now. Bolo can cover, but he's not there right now. He's got to work it into a 1v1 now, as Bolo has to challenge onto the red stairs. Now make that above, as the buck is opening up above the 30 seconds left on that diffuser. Rampy, all he needs to do is wait. Bolo has really no choice, no chance. There's a drone on him right now. Mark's coming out. So little HP, so little time, and Bolo cannot win this round. Rampy, an excellent clutch in the 1v1, and all he needs to do is wait it out. Success! SSG will win their first attack, and they will take 5-3. That's a really big moment there for SSG, and it'll put them on the precipice of match point.
So as we were saying, that this setup from TSM was so unorthodox and one that we really haven't seen that much of, and SSG, just like a hot knife through butter, cuts right through it.
Yeah.
They managed to get the soft destruction, drop frag grenades down, they put pressure on the second floor defenders that are playing off-site, but still close enough to the bomb sites. Merc is unfortunately the first domino to fall as he gets caught in a cross and punished for it by Fultz. I have to give an awful lot of praise to both teams there, and I know that that's going to sound strange to people, but TSM's setup can still work, but SSG just went right through it.
Attackers need to locate.
I am actually very impressed with how quickly SSG was able to take care of that site. They made it look like just another day at the office.
They really did. It was a solid defense there. But an even better clear from SSG. They are that kind of team, though. I mean, it starts 0 in SSG. I find who are the types of teams that from North America who tend to make it seem like just another day at the office, you know?
Yeah.
And also, but I don't know why, but it doesn't work in the.
That's fine.
Yeah. So, top floor defense here from TSM. See how this one goes for them. A reminder, this is the third map in this best of 3. Both teams having won a single map each. Which means that whoever takes this map takes the whole series. But it's not the end. This is the winner's match, which means that if you win here, you're out of groups. Congratulations, you have qualified for the playoffs. That's big, round of applause. But if you lose here, you get a second chance. So it's not the end of the world. It's just not ideal. This is Jackal coming out. That's kind of interesting. I mean, Jackal could be so very powerful on this map if used correctly.
I am.
Sensor deployed.
What's up? I'm interested with this. What SSG is bringing now, because it is a bar cocktail take.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Thinking Nate and Nomads probably go over towards Piano Cigar and then hold them down. Maybe.
Possible. Right now, what they've got control of is mining. They're going to be extending themselves into reading. Looks like it's going to be a downstairs take here for SSG. They want to open up underneath the anchors. A little bit of pressure being applied to Rampy there through the holes that were pre-made by the defense from above. Standard. Rampy needs to die if you're TSM right now. He needs to die. Not because he's Rampy and he's fragging out. He's got 10 kills right now. But because he's playing Buck underneath your site. If he's allowed to land his nades and his skeleton keys, then TSM is going to struggle.
Yeah, so we'll get very, very rough for them. Is that a toxic canister or is that a smoke grenade that gets tossed out?
There it is.
Rampy needs to die, you say, but it will be Pojo Man rather at the hands of Rampy that is punished. and removed from action. Unideal to lose a... Well, it's not the smoke, it's the mute at minimum. Still likely has a nitro cell in play. There goes another, down to Merc. Now the smoke is gone as Canadian is on Repel, and this is a chokehold that SSG has. An upside down Repel will be Geo's undoing if SSG is just a bit patient. 40 seconds and all the bottles will rattle in the bar back store as Geo has his back to the casing. He'll just be watching below. Down goes Bolo and the walls are starting to fall on in. There's a smoke as Achieved will come in. Nearly a flawless round. Will that be the exclamation point? Diffuser going down right in front of Geo. Canadian typing away, and it is indeed a flawless round. Space Station Gaming are 1 round away from going out first in their group and making it to the playoffs next week.
I'll be honest, after a round like that, I don't see a lot of recovery potential for TSM. The last one was pretty close. Could have gone either way. It ended in a 1v1, but this round just now, I mean, well, you said it was flawless. Pretty dominant victory there for SSG. The control was in their ability to handle those angles was pretty impressive. TSM looked lost for the majority of that round. There was no point where I felt to myself, or thought to myself rather, that TSM was going to be able to recover. The biggest thing is that they just had no control over Cocktail. The reason they didn't have any control over Cocktail was because of Pojo Man getting naded from below. I said it during the round, Rampy needed to die, but there was nobody roaming underneath from TSM. So SSG has free reign. They're like, oh yeah, we'll put Rampy under you, and you won't be able to play in Cocktail. Then Canadian's just going to repel in and plant from the east side, while Bosco covers as well from the east. No run-out potential because there's likely an air jab or a claymore on the east balcony. So what are you going to do? Well, TSM didn't do anything. They weren't prepared for that take, and they struggled. Lost a lot of players in transitions, just at repel angles. They need to correct that hold. And they're going to take some time to try and correct that hold by going over to a different bomb site. It's Reading this time. It's the first time that TSM has defended Reading. They went to Mining earlier. That didn't work out. TSM has tried every bomb site now. Interestingly, they will not repeat Kitchen here. They could have. It has just unlocked. Kitchen is the only site that has been successful for TSM so far through the second half.
It's kind of surprising to me that they didn't bother to go back down there.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked for them. It worked very, very well. You look at Mining and Cocktail, they lose the opening duel and allow SSG to pull off and execute. Even though that was a bit of an outside-the-box kind of setup on the Mining, well, I mean, I'm a little surprised, and I gotta kind of call into question. TSM's thinking on this one. But anywho, a very pivotal round for Space Station. Obviously, they went out first in their group in Raleigh, if memory serves me correctly, and very few imagined that that was going to happen. And well, history can repeat itself here in Montreal.
Well, as we stated earlier, not elimination match yet, so it's not the end of the world if you lose this, but it's not, again, it's not ideal. SSG wants that first seed out of this group. Would be really powerful if they got it, and they are 1 round away, possibly 1 minute 40 seconds away from actually finishing first.
Nearly losing Geo, and SSG nearly losing Bosco as well in the ensuing fray. Lots of these walls carved open, very similar to what we see from teams on Reading before, which allows you as a defender tons of angles to stop the attackers when they push on in. Both Canadian and Bosco are under watch from a Yokai. This is incredibly powerful right now for Pojo Man, and he's going to continue to call away at that. There is no IQ present for SSG, and barring them just simply seeing the Yokai, my, this can go very bad for Space Station.
So Pojoman was trying to get some of those Excaros to deny a rotation hole there, but I think he's unsuccessful. It looks like the rotation hole is completed. SSG also are going to be moving their way over towards pillars. There's a whole minute left, so there's not a lot of worry here for SSG. Oh, what a flank though from Merc. He gets one, but can't get the second. Fultz on the entry will get Pojo Man and has made it into Reading. It's a really powerful position. He'll be playing by the couch or sofa, some like to call it. This is a really strong spot. He's also got the shield to help his flank. Rampy is also there to hold on to that Jaeger, who somehow is still alive. Fultz eats a lot of damage from the MPX, but still somehow wins the fight against Bolo. Rampy shuts down Merc. The Jaeger in open. Geo with the gas canister to try and slow down the push. Fultz was picking himself up, but Achieved will secure the kill with the C4. So a 2v3. This is doable for TSM, especially with the last 20 seconds and closing in. but it's looking really good for SSG. An aggressive play here will be caught by the nade. Geo will go down to that. Beautiful job there from Rampy. It's now all on Achieved in the 1v3. He's focused on the breach, but that's not where this is from. There's one, not the second. The reload's in. The plant coming down right now. It needs to be denied, but no, it's actually a full fight, and it'll be SSG on that full fight to take the map and the series all the way down to the wire, but they do it anyway.
What an unbelievable performance, and our very first team that will make it to the playoffs next week, Space Station Gaming. They shoot for the stars and they land among them today. TSM, North America's best team, well, they're in tomorrow's match. They'll be make or break. They'll be going up against Na'Vi. They haven't played them yet. We'll see how those two teams tussle. My, what a series that was, and it was a 7-3 every single time. TSM 7-3 on Consulate, but then Bank and Kafe 7-3 for SSG. A lot of people sleeping on this SSG squad.
Yeah.
Myself included. A lot of people didn't think they'd be going into the playoffs at all, knowing how stacked this group was. But you know, just as we all predicted, Michael, Rogue, the first team eliminated from this group, and Space Station, the first team to make it out. Not exactly what a lot of people had in mind.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It's been a weird series of events in this group, that's for sure. But what we do know is that SSG come out top, and they looked pretty strong doing it. I mean, yeah, it was a close match there. Many of these rounds did come down to the wire, but as we stated earlier in this series, SSG, in the dying seconds of the round, they're not making mistakes. There's so many rounds you can look back, it's like, oh, there's 5 seconds left, 10 seconds left, 20 seconds left. SSG suddenly start killing everyone on TSM.
Yeah.
It seems to be their hallmark.
I was just so impressed by both of these teams. Their poise, they didn't really let nerves get to them. They didn't tilt. There were some mistakes that were made. Bear in mind that there are a lot of inexperienced LAN players on both of these teams. Fultz, even Rampy haven't had a ton of experience. Merc hasn't had a ton of experience. Bolo hasn't had a ton of experience. Even Achieved really hasn't. And when you look at somebody, the growth of a player like Achieved, only a year ago, he was in a position where, or just over a year ago, he was in a position where he had toiled down in Challenger League, Michael, for almost 5 seasons. And he was just a couple rounds away today from competing on the main stage of the Six Invitational, the biggest event of the year and the biggest event that we've ever seen. That's still a possibility for Achieved, and that's still a possibility for the rest of TSM. Tomorrow they will play up against Na'Vi, and man, that is going to be an exciting one to watch. It is a fresh match because Space Station beat Na'Vi and it was TSM beating Rogue. So we've never seen these two teams battle like this head to head, and we're going to get a first look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, we sure will. It's going to be an exciting match, that's for darn tootin' when we eventually get to it. Here's the bracket, though, for Group B. You can see what we were talking about represented visually. SSG move on to the playoffs in that first seed out of Group B. Decider match, TSM Na'Vi. Again, that will happen tomorrow. The winner of that will be pushed into playoffs as well. The loser will go home. Very, very sad, as again, we still have, 8 days of competition?
Yes.
We're just starting.
Yeah. We said goodbye to the #1 ranked team in European Pro League today, and one of the teams that has the most amount of experience on LAN, but obviously that experience hasn't really been paying off for Rogue, so we say goodbye to them.
Yep.
We'll be saying goodbye to another team on the B stream, but for us, we're going to take a bit of a break. It'll be Dez and Ace coming in to cast G2 versus BDS. G2 got an invite. Pengu called it a pity invite, but they earned their place in this match, and they can be the second team to advance to the playoffs. Will it be them, or will it be the upstart BDS squad that took Wildcard by storm yesterday? We'll find out after this break.